What's going on, everybody? It's your boy PTK Blam back in the building with another episode of the Shop Podcast. How are all you beautiful people doing in the chat, man? As you guys can see, let me just get this out of the way. You guys can see Pong is not here today, had a previous engagement, but shout out to Pong. I'm sure he'll be back next week. We might actually have some other guests fall through, so you never know, chat. I threw out a couple fish hooks late, sent up a couple bat signals late. We'll see who responds to the call. But shout out to OCD Gamer. I saw Shone too. Shout out to my brother King David in the chat. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us, man. Hopefully, you guys are all having a great Saturday playing some video games. Hopefully, the work week was fast. You know, you got to that weekend fast. But let's go ahead and get to our guest, man. We got a lot to talk about. It's been a phenomenal week. Got a lot of news. 2023 has been just firing on all cylinders, man. Like every single week, it's something to talk about. This kind of felt like a slow week, but when you really look at the news, it really wasn't a slow week. So, you know, it's a lot going on. What's up, Luke? So you see Luke in there, Captain Logan. You know, he had to show up. Shout out Luke. What's up, Abdel? What's up, Zink, OCD? How are you beautiful people doing? Retweet that link, man. Let everybody know we in here, man. Hey, Luke, if you need, I'll shoot you the link. If you available, Luke, I'll shoot you the link. You know what I'm saying? So let me know in chat, Luke, if you want to come through, hang out with us, man, be part of this panel as well, too. But let's just get to our guest here, man. This man doesn't really need any introductions. Been on the podcast before, man. A phenomenal gentleman, one of my favorite people, part of Xbox expansion pass with Luke. Got a lot of other stuff going on, but Logan, I'm sure you can get into that, man. How you doing? How you feeling? What you been up to? Glad to have you here, man.
That's a heck of an info, buddy. That was
Hey man, I do
that was
what I can do,
beautiful.
man. I do what I can do. I got to
That
do
was
extra because
beautiful.
Pong ain't here to give me that energy. So shout out to you, but man,
Oh
yeah,
man, it's what a fantastic week. I've been so busy. I'm covering Forza this week and next week, and I've just had a really good time playing video games this week, man. Like if it wasn't, oh, it feels like it's just getting started. But dude, I'm having a really good week. I'm excited
nice.
to talk some games with you guys. I'm really interested to hear your thoughts and opinions, especially with like the Jim Ryan thing.
Oh
Like
yeah, we're gonna get into that.
that's a conversation. I'm willing to be a little spicy if you guys want.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see. But shout out to you. You guys know what to do, chat. Support our guests here at the Shop Podcast. They come out, spend some time, always give us a great show. So go ahead and all the links, everything's down in the description. Go follow Logan, everything he has going on. The X is down there, so go follow him there as well too to keep up with everything he has going on. But Logan, appreciate you hanging out with us, bro. And we're definitely getting into that Jim Ryan stuff. We know we get into that today. We already talked about that pregame for sure. So it might get a little bit messy, but you know, we don't mind going there here and there at the Shop Podcast, man. It is what it is. But let me pass this over to my brother, my right hand man, Mr. Fuzzy Belvedere. How's been? I know you just said you was playing Starfield. You've been just vegging out on Starfield right up until Forza coming out. So we know once Forza, you got to get that Starfield in because once Forza come out, you're not doing anything else. But how you been? We know you're not playing nothing else.
So. Yeah, I'm doing great. Glad to be here. Glad we got Captain Logan on here as well, man. This is gonna be a good show because we've been having nothing but good news as far as on the Xbox side of things. And I'm here to say also, if you're a PlayStation fan, probably got some good news as well. I don't know how many people were happy with Ryan in his position, but we'll get into it. But man, so much to get into. So many games coming out, man. This is an awesome time. So let's do this.
Let's get into it, man. Shout out to everybody once again in chat. You guys are fucking amazing. Once again, retweet the link. Let everybody know we're in here. Tell everybody come hang out with us. This is where you get your gaming fix every single Saturday, man. Get caught up with us, man. Let's have some fun. Let's get into it. We actually gonna talk a little bit about the poll of the week, Logan. So let me let you know right now. If you didn't get a chance to look at it, go ahead and look at the poll of the week, Logan, because we are gonna use that as one of the topics this week since we're a little bit shorthanded. But shout out to everybody who took part in the poll of the week. Once again, I put it up every single Monday on my X profile. You can find it there. Then we talk about it every Saturday here at the Shop Podcast. So almost 400 people, just shy of 400 people voted on this poll. You guys are amazing. You guys always enjoy the polls, so that's why I keep doing them. So I appreciate you guys' engagement. But the poll of the week this week, and quote unquote, Logan, we got now that all the dust, no pun intended, has settled. We've all We've all played Starfield. Would you consider it a generational game? So it's pretty easy. Yes, no. 77% of the people that voted said yes, it is a generational game. We had 23% say no. Now, once again, generational is subjective, Logan. We understand. In chat, I know you guys are going to be all over the board. We saw the score, the Metacritic, and all of that. We saw, when the game came out, we saw the full spectrum of emotions about what Starfield is and what Starfield isn't. But to you, Logan, is it a generational game? And I want you first just to define what's a generational game for you in chat. Let me know what's a generational game to you guys as well. If we could define that, it probably makes it easier to talk about.
To me, for me, a generational game is Super Mario Brothers 64 for the Nintendo 64. Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Those are generational games. Like Grand Theft Auto 5 is a generational game. Grand Theft Auto 3 is like a generational game. So like when you look at and it's so hard because games are now transcending generations. It's where does the line end for that? But I think of like when it came out, what it did for the industry. God, it's one of those things where I think it's so close to where Starfield is. We haven't seen where they're going to go with it. But if you want to take a look at the track record for a game like Skyrim being Bethesda's last biggest launch,
another generational game,
a generational game. Do I think that this is going to be Bethesda's next Skyrim? Yeah, I do. The potential for this game already, just with the mod support that's been coming out from the community, is epic. They've been doing some really amazing stuff. We just got word that Bethesda is looking to support this for at least the next 5 years with content and support. So, and we, based on Starfield or based on Skyrim, bro, this could be going for decades at this point.
Definitely.
Generational game. It's hard to say so close to the launch, but yeah, this is one of those epochs for Xbox right now. This is going to be something that people will look back at the Xbox Series generation and think, yeah, we had Halo Infinite, which had a rocky launch, and we had Fable, and we had some Starfield, and those were the standout games that just absolutely dominated the industry when they launched for the console.
Oh no, absolutely. No, I 100% agree. So I said it when it came out. Actually, before it came out, I thought, Logan, from all the games that come out this year, and by the way, it's been a phenomenal year, probably the best year in my opinion, from start to finish for just consistent game of the year quality games, in my opinion. Some people still think 07 or 2018. There's a couple other years you could probably talk about as well, but in my opinion, 23 is the best gaming year in video games. So with all that being said, I think it's a generational game. Chat, and you guys know how I feel about Starfield. It's one of the few single player games that drew me in, and I'm not the biggest Bethesda fan, admittedly. You guys know that. I said it before the game came out, so I'm very, very transparent about that. This brought me in. This made me feel something that I haven't felt in a very long time, Logan, for me personally.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The sense of exploration, the ability to just do it. They handed me the paintbrush. How many times in video games do you grab the controller and there's this moment of discovery? This is something that I've never been able to do before, or I personally have never experienced before. So for me, a Halo, the OG Halo CE was that kind of a moment. Like you said, GTA 5, maybe GTA 3. There's a few other games. Some people say Elden Ring, a lot of the Mario stuff. I put it right there in my opinion, and it's only going to get better. The game's only been out. God damn it! How long has it been out? Not even a full month. At this point in time,
early launch was September. So yeah, about a month now.
About a month. So, and it's only going to get better with the mod support. Like you said, the content's only going to get better. They're going to get more DLC. They already had that plan, the roadmap. They're going to do so many things with this game. It's only going to get better. Once the new consoles come out, who knows what they do to the game after that. I'm sure they'll be looking at Elder Scrolls by then. But I think definitely it's hands down a generational game in my opinion. It's doing things that we ask other games to do. We ask these other games to do these things, but they really tried it, Logan. They actually tried to do those things. Like, we asked for these huge open exploration. Like, they really attempted to do that. This is about the best you could do. Like, I couldn't have, when I imagined Starfield, I probably didn't imagine this. Like, I remember when I was trying to think about what I wanted Starfield to be, I probably could. I couldn't have thought it was going to be this vast, this massive, and with all these storylines and everything, them handing you pretty much the keys to do what you want. So I think for sure it's a generational game. Some people may fight back. I see people all over X talking about it's not, and the Metacritic doesn't say that. It is what it is regarding that. But Fuzz, I need you to get in on this, brother. I usually get in. So on the poll, man, is Starfield a generational game? And just kind of define for you what's a generational game.
For me, yes. And a lot of it has to do with how long you'll engage with this game, whether it's one playthrough, several playthroughs, you come back to it for DLC, you come back to it for, the mods that are out there, between the support from, like, kind of what Captain Logan said, between the support from Bethesda, which they said for at least the next 5 years, and the mod community. If Bethesda games are any, their previous games are any example, there's going to be mod support from the community for well over 10 years on this. So I would say it's generational in the sense that, 10 years from now, there'll still be people playing, not necessarily the vanilla version, but they'll be playing a version of this game still. And there'll be many people that will constantly or continue to return to this game to, try different things. Like I'm being the crazy person now and going through like 3 simultaneous playthroughs, but there's something to it where there's just so much freedom and ability to kind of do what you want to an extent in this game. Like, if you look at games like, for me, another generational, and I know some people hold some of the other GTAs in a higher regard, but if you look at 5, you have a whole community that does the role playing aspect of either playing the police or highway patrol in the game, or there'll be like a delivery driver or a truck driver or a bus driver or something to that effect. So there's a lifespan beyond the original intended game as far as that storyline. And with the storyline in Starfield, it's great and it's worthy of trying a couple of different options, but all of the side quests and just the fact that you can do almost anything in this universe that you put your mind to, it definitely allows for it to have a longer lifespan than typically your standard game. Plus, there's now going to be this, I guess you can say, standard or comparison. I know a lot of people tried to bring up the whole, No Man's Sky, comparisons prior to this game, but I think now, before, when you talked about sci-fi, people always look back at another generational game where it came to Mass Effect and the initial trilogy, and I think now this will be another,
benchmark.
Benchmark in comparison for sci-fi moving forward, as far as like having this open world or open universe to kind of play as your own sandbox and stuff. I think this is now what we can now use as like the gold standard, or at least the benchmark in which to compare future ones, or even the upcoming Mass Effect, considering that BioWare is kind of going through transition from its initial trilogy to now. So I think now that goes to show that it will be this generational game when 10 years from now it is still being brought up in comparison's sake, until at least there's a multiplayer or MMO version of this, which I'm pretty sure Bethesda's already cracking on that right now. But I definitely think, at least from my viewpoint, something that people will continue to play, something that people will continue to use as a reference point or benchmark. I think that displays its status as far as being a generational game.
Oh yeah, definitely. So shout out to Mav for coming through. What's up, brother? How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm sad Jim left.
Oh man, I'm sorry. I forgot. I didn't bring any extra tissue today, so I apologize.
Content's going to be a lot less fun next year. No more Jim comments. No more lies.
Yeah, I didn't know
Yeah.
you were suffering like this, man. If I would have reached out earlier, man, I'm sorry. I didn't
Yeah.
realize Jim affected you that way.
But it's pretty rough, dude. You know, I mean, we were given a gift for 5 years, um, a gift of embarrassment from the executive of PlayStation. You know, he set a good example of how not to do things for
Mm.
everybody. And for real though, it's been pretty crazy news, bro. Like it's insane. Nobody saw this coming. Um, but it's crazy. I still can't I still can't believe it all of a sudden just randomly like that without a replacement, you know? But it is what it is.
So
It's coincidental that it happened right as we started getting a little more confidence in that ABK deal.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
live service
Odd.
game closures, layoffs, Square Enix starting to favor Xbox again a little bit, ABK deal closing, all these things. Just coincidence. Jim's leaving all of a
Crazy.
sudden.
Yeah.
Just
Very
a
odd.
coincidence.
That's insane. Now I don't know because we're talking about the poll of the week, Matt. If you want to kind of jump in here, we're talking about the poll of the week. I don't know if you caught it, but we're talking about Starfield being a generational game, and we're really just talking about define generation. Like, what does that mean? Everybody, this is obviously subjective. Everybody is going to be a little bit different, Matt. But one, what is a generational game to you? Two, does Starfield fit the bill as a generational game? Would you consider it that?
Oh, for sure. I mean, for me, I think a generational game is something that defines a genre, defines and pushes
Does
things
this actually
forward.
have a genre though? Like, what does this fit under? Because it's
Uh,
not. This is not a normal like
What
RPG,
it's Western RPG
Western
through and
RPG. You
through.
would say,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, Western RPG through and through. Classic Bethesda. Some people don't see it that way, but the Bethesda roots are tied so deep all through this game, and they defined originally what a Western RPG is. So yeah, it's definitely generational. They set a new standard and a new bar for what those games can be and can do, and they also defined possibly, like you were saying, a new genre, right? So there's definitely a new standard set for the sandbox RPG type game,
yeah.
right? And it's
Space as well too, specifically because we
yeah,
don't
but
get a whole lot in that space. We don't really get any.
there's never been a space game like
Yeah,
this for
never.
sure. And that's I think what's causing some of the confusion out there because you have people are expecting like certain things out of a space game, but this is more so a Bethesda RPG that's in space,
Yeah,
right? So it's created some confusion about what kind of mechanics to expect or what kind of things to expect to do in a game like this. And that's why, you know, for a long time we were like, hey, stop comparing this game to No Man's Sky. It's not that. You know, this is a Bethesda ass RPG, like they've been saying time and time again, right? And for the people that really understand that and stop comparing it to other games so much and appreciate this game for what it is, it's really defining something new that we've never done before, never played before. But in that classic Bethesda style that other creators, other studios could only dream of being able to make an experience like this, right?
that's
It's
facts. I didn't. You know what the funny thing about that, Mavis? You said that. I want to kind of jump in here before before I lose the thought. I did not realize that till I played. Like Starfield had to like it grabbed me and said, "This is something you've never played before." Like that was one thing that I realized, Logan, playing it. And I know you got it early, so I'm sure you've already had that experience. I'm not sure how big of a Bethesda fan you are, but I'm sure you had the experience as well too, maybe. But it really that's what stood out to me, man. It really felt like a carefully handcrafted like experience that only they could make. Like I've never felt really anything like it really with any other game. It was
Ooh,
strange.
yeah.
ooh, buddy. Let me point you to Outer Worlds, little company you may not have heard of them.
Well, no, I'm a big Obsidian fan. I'm a big Obsidian fan. But yeah, I got you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, Obsidian, they got that style originally from first off the team had roots back with Interplay, and they helped originally. Some of those developers were part of Fallout way back when it was part of Interplay before Bethesda bought it. And then when Bethesda had made Fallout 3, who did they turn to make New Vegas was Obsidian as
Yep.
well, right? So Obsidian has deep roots with that style of game. They were kind of like the younger brother of the Western RPG genre for a long time, because they had making sequels for Fallout, making sequels for BioWare's games. They made sequel for Neverwinter Nights originally, Obsidian did, and then stuff like that. So they were all the kind of that studio that was deep entrenched into the RPG, Western RPG genre, but not had the ability to make their own big, huge franchise. That's why I'm so excited for Avowed,
Same.
because
Avowed
they
and
get
Outer
that
Worlds too.
Microsoft backing, behind those kind of games, right? But Outer Worlds is definitely like a smaller focus, like experience as opposed to compared to Starfield with all the different things you can do. But Obsidian's amazing as well. But I still think that Bethesda kind of created that template as far as the sandbox open world RPG, and then uh, Obsidian kind of ran with their version of it, right? So it's going to be great to see. The other thing about generational, right, is what the game becomes and how long people play it, right? That's the other thing. Like,
Yeah,
I don't think
longevity is key.
I don't think a game that people play for like a month and then just like move on to the next thing, can ever
Can't
be
be.
like a
Can't be.
generational game. It's
Nope.
got to be something that people play throughout the generation. You talk about a GTA or a Skyrim, or Mass Effects, like those kind of games that people keep going back to and back to and back to. And they set this game up like they just came out to last years and years with support and stuff like that as a single player focused game. That's very promising to hear. So I think Skyrim's going to last the genre. The generation. It's going to continue to push the bar for the generation and set the trends for those kind of games, right? So it definitely generational, setting the standard in that way. But also, I think keep seeing people post things about how many playthroughs they've had of it and all these things. Like I think is even Alana Pierce said, like, I'm 100 hours in and this is my take after 5 playthroughs, right? And I'm like, okay, like, Pong, he hasn't even started the main quest and he's 200 hours in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think a lot of these people, and a lot of people even that love the game, I'm not saying there's any one way to play, but you're missing out on so much stuff if you just plow through the story. If you just plow through some of the faction quests, if you plow through the story and you don't really get immersed in that world and really understand everything about it and what there is
Yeah.
to do, and kind
I
of
realized that as well going through some of the quests. Like I realized that like some of the environmental storytelling, like it kind of made me slow down on my own. Like I realized
Yeah.
that I really wanted to be able to experience this because one, I'm kind of new to it, to be honest, and as well as like that's what the game is meant to be essentially,
Yeah.
right? Like you can run through it, like you said, it's fine, and you'll get everything you need to get playing it that way, but you don't really get the full experience, right? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, you can't really judge a game like this based on like a 25, 30 hour, 40 hour playthrough when you just keep playing this main story over and over again. Like this is a game that this is a role playing game at its purest form, right? It's like you decide how you want to play and you play your role and make the decisions based on your character and how you want to play within that world, right? So if you do that, everybody's playthrough is going to be different. Everybody's experience is going to be different in this game. So I play it differently from you, PTK, from Logan, from Fuzzy, from
Yeah.
Pong. Everybody has their own experience based on the decisions they make, what they want to do with their companions, what factions they take on, what decisions they make in the
Everything.
faction quest. If they
Everything.
decide not to do any of that stuff
Yeah.
and just go off on your own and just like explore random planets. And the scope of it too, man, like you can literally, if you wanted to, I'm not saying that you should, but if you wanted to, you could literally go to one planet. You could land in a spot, spend 10 hours in that one location, right? If you want to. And then you could go back to your ship, land in a different spot on the same planet, spend another 10 hours in that location. You could do that 100 damn times if you want to. And you can spend hundreds of hours on one planet. Now you take that scope and realize how big this game is, like with the amount of planets there are to do. And remember, everybody's worried about Baron and all that crap, that all this stuff. There is so much to find and do and loot, and the procedural generation they created for these outposts and bases and all this stuff that you can do. It's fun, man.
I've
And
seen some amazing stuff, dude. I've seen some insane like outposts. It's like talking like erector set stuff,
yeah,
like
the caves.
precise
I mean,
calculations, and I'm like, good lord, like
yeah,
they got
there's
this
like
thing running.
lore there, legendary web, all these different things to take in at your own pace and figure out how you want to play. Like Pong said it on our show the other day, it's kind of like running dungeons. You know what I mean? And if you decide to play it that way, people say, well, what's really the reward? There's no like story reward for that. Well, hey, the reward is the fun you have doing it and playing your character. You know what I mean? So, uh, it's an immensely rewarding game with like an endless amount of content for a single player RPG, unlike anything I've ever seen. And it's just insane. And not on top of that, everything on top of that, they actually launched it with quality, right?
Mhm.
It ain't janky. Yeah, I mean, animations are smooth. You got great gunplay. It's like fun combat, like all this stuff combined. Haven't ever seen anything like it, bro. It's not getting the credit it deserves at all. That really bothers me, but I do think regardless, it's going to stand that test of time and set that bar.
I agree. 110%. I kind of want to throw the same thing over to you, Logan. Before we move on to the next topic, man, just regarding Starfield. I know you played it early, so your experience might be a little bit different than all of ours. But like, was there a point that you got to? What's up, Red Monkey? What's up, Splendiferous? Shout out to all you guys coming in the chat. Once again, hit the like button. Thank you guys. But was there a point, Logan, that you got to like? Was there something that happened in the game where you're like, wow, like that kind of took you aback and like you sat up like, man, this is different. Like, did you have that kind of moment? Like, man, this is kind of crazy. Like that I'm able to do this.
There were definitely times where that happened. I mean, the one that really kind of struck is the quest in the main storyline called "High Price to Pay" is the name of the achievement. If you've gotten that, then you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, there was definitely moments. I mean, I went through. I'm not a Bethesda guy. Like I tried picking up Skyrim forever ago, and back when it came on the Switch. And it was purely because of the Zelda content. They sold me on that stupid DLC. And I just could not get into it. Like I couldn't understand why this was so revered. And then recently I decided that I wanted to get into Fallout 76 because I love that kind of dystopian future. You know, I'm a big cyberpunk fan, and that kind of falls in line with like a different lens on it. But you know, playing Fallout 76 and just becoming enamored with the community that's come from that game really kind of introduced me to how Fallout games, or not Fallout games, but Bethesda makes their games. And bro, like I was used to why being jump by the time Starfield came around. So when I got into Starfield, I was like, oh yeah, okay, I see what they're doing here. Oh, this is the exact same mod system as 76 for guns and stuff. Oh, this is, you know, it's all ammo for the different weapons and stuff. The thing that surprised me with Starfield was the writing that they had put in, the stories that they had put in, because yeah, it's mostly like jump from this planet to this planet, load into the planet. You know, you get the same kind of, you know, stereo or, you know, kind of cookie cutter cloned facilities on different planets, and each planet has a weird mishmash of different things. It's all kind of procedural, but when they tell you to go do something and you're following along with these characters like the Freestar Collective or the pirate, you know, the Crimson Fleet kind of storyline, there's something about the stories that they're telling that really captivates me. I love the stories and that stuff. So yeah, when you're playing through Starfield, you have those moments, and even if you're not a Bethesda fan, if you can overlook like the difference as far as like control schemes, and you can kind of wrap your head around the different systems that are in play, and understand that this is how Bethesda makes their game. It'd be like asking the makers of Mario not to make Mario jump the way he jumps. He's always going to jump that way. People would be outraged if he didn't. So I really enjoyed Starfield for that. And that's what I think everyone's kind of getting to, is they're finding different ways to get to the same things that a lot of us are. But it's like that Breath of the Wild moment where you kind of have the whole world to yourself, and they give you enough leads to let you pick what you want to do and to follow that path. And that's just, it's hard to really pull that off well.
Yeah, definitely. I 100% agree. And it's an experience that I'm not used to in a video game. Like I said before, I'm admittedly, chat, you guys know, I'm 100% transparent here. I've never really been a big, huge Bethesda guy. Like I said, tried Skyrim, tried some of the other Fallouts, never were able to really get into them. This grabbed me within like probably 4 to 5 hours. I was like stuck. The story, from the gameplay, like it was like a duck to water. You know what I mean? Like it didn't take me very long to get into it. Everything felt intuitive. I've never felt a sense of like exploration that I felt with Starfield, like being able to literally jump and do different things and build things and talk to whoever I want to talk to. And if I don't want to do that right now, I don't have to go do it right now. I can do it later, and I can go find 10 other planets before I decide to finish up this quest if I want to do that. Like I'm not used to having the ability to do that. So that was really like what I had to get over. I'm used to games kind of telling me what I need to do. You know what I mean? Like kind of pointing me, nudging me in kind of a direction.
More linear.
You know, more linear experiences. You know, even with the Destinies and things like that I enjoy playing, those are still fairly like straightforward. You know what I mean? They're pseudo open world, but they're pretty straightforward. But either way, Starfield is an amazing game. We've all been playing it, chat. You know how it is, and that was actually just our opening. That was just our poll of the week. So we're gonna get into the meat of the show. Shout out to everybody watching. Once again, hit the link. Let everybody know we're live. Appreciate everybody in chat. You guys are awesome. So we're talking a little bit of Jimmy, and this is gonna be a good one. Okay. So we talked about this pregame, Mav. I know you weren't here yet. I know you guys talked about this on Friday. I'm sure you've been talking about it since it came out. God, I would love to have Pong here and to talk about this. Shout out to my guy Pong. But we gonna get into this, man. So as you guys know, okay, and I know you mentioned this kind of on your way in the door, Mav. I appreciate the segue there, the assist you threw me there. So Jim Ryan is stepping down. Not right away. Isn't it gonna be
like 6 months?
Like 6 months or something like that? Yeah, early next year he'll be stepping down officially. They do have somebody kind of interim right now that's going to take over in this position. Like, and once again, I think the key thing here, Chad, is random and out of nowhere, right? Like we talked about this, you know, the ABK deal is kind of, you know, things are going well for Xbox. The ABK deal was imminent. That was a failure for Sony. They kind of jumped in on that, and they turned around and realized they're the only people that are actually pushing back against this. And you know, it kind of, I'm not gonna say how much it damaged, you know, Jim's reputation, but I don't think it helped him. On top of the, you know, the lack of roadmap, I don't think that helps. Some of the disdain from the community for the showcases have been lackluster from some of the community as well. So a lot of things not quite going the way we're used to seeing things from Sony go. So Logan, we're gonna start with you on this one in chat. Let us know how you guys feel about this, when it happened, what was your initial thoughts? But Logan, where are you at on this, bro? Because this is crazy. This almost never happens this way. And mind you, Logan, they're still selling consoles like, you know, hand over fist.
Yeah. Boy, I tell you what, Jim Ryan, that dude is a hell of a businessman. If I ever need to sell a product, I hope I have his like guidance on how to sell something, because the dude knows how to sell consoles. He knows how to sell a tablet with a controller split in half and stuck on the end. The dude knows how to sell you a webcam for a PS5 that doesn't get used for PSVR 2. Like it's not compatible with past. The dude knows how to sell you a director's copy for a game that the director themselves put out the version they wanted the first time. That is how good this dude is a salesman.
God damn.
I am so glad this dude is out of office, out of the CEO position, because everything that I've seen him do is like, it's like that, dude. You ever seen that episode of Simpsons where Sideshow Bob is like walking in the rakes, and every time it hits like and that is Jim Ryan to a nut, man. Like that is exactly like, if you could pour down the essence of Jim Ryan, it's like the dude knows how to sell a product, and he knows how to step on rakes like nobody's business. And I'm glad that someone else is getting an opportunity to run the crew over at the SIE to be able to like take the helm, captain this ship, because I really don't think what he's doing is good for consumer trust. And there's a delicate balance. There's a balance that like if you're looking at a balancing, I can't even think what the heck they're called, whatever they're called, weights and measurements things. Scale. It's a scale, folks. There you go. There's your word for the day. There's a delicate balance between what you can get away with and consumer trust. And if that starts to tip one way or the other, either consumer trust being really high, you can get away with whatever you want. It's weighing it down. They trust you. You flip it the other way, you're trying to get away with a lot. Consumer trust is going to fade. They're not going to do it. They're not going to buy into that. So you got to try and balance that. And Jim is a mastermind at being able to sell people an idea that will cost them in the long run for stuff that probably doesn't need to be like exercised. Like in 20, they raised the console price and everyone's like, no, yeah, give me more of that. Give me more of that. I want more of that. Yes. A mid-gen refresh. Yes, that is fine. Just all over this face. Please give me that mid-gen refresh. And Jim is selling it, man. But I'm glad he's going to be out because I want someone like a Phil Spencer to come in. I want someone that's cut from the dev cycle or from the dev industry, pulled out and inserted into the CEO position. Support him with good business folks that know how to watch numbers and know how to see market trends. But let someone go ahead. Go ahead. I'm talking a long time.
No. You're good. No. I'm not. I just want to. I have a thought, kind of piggybacking on what you're saying, and I'm gonna go ahead and let you finish talking as well too. My crazy thing. We got to ask this question though. And this is actually to all three of you guys because the thing is pretty important. What are we asking the CEO of Sony to do though? Like, think about this think about what the fan base actually wants. They just want what they've already had. Like they want what they've already been getting. So like, is that beneficial just to come in and be just kind of a cog in a machine? Right? Like, are we going to get one of those type of CEOs? Or are we going to get somebody really coming in, shaking things up? Because if you're being honest, the Sony fans, based on what I'm hearing, they want Sean Layden back. That's what they want. Yeah, they want Sean Layden back. They want to go back to first party is the priority. They want to go back to single player as a priority. They don't want to do the multiplayer. They don't like the games as a service stuff. Are we asking somebody to come in and be innovative? Is that going to be beneficial, or is that not something like? Are we just asking for a CEO to come in and just be a cog in a machine and go back to what Sony once was?
Dude, the what gamers want is what is comfortable to them.
It's fickle.
Everyone has their own idea of what they want, for sure. But every console has its own style. Like when I look at Xbox, as like the buffet table at a restaurant. Like they've got a little bit of everything. It's not top shelf all the time, but you can get your Asian cuisine next to your Italian cuisine, next to your American burgers and stuff. Like it's all right there. Like you don't have to worry about that. But if you want a top shelf steak, you go to Sony because they make steaks and they're going to make an amazing steak. And when you see them like, all right, we're making steaks. People don't seem to like steaks. We're going to start bringing in Asian fusion to our steaks. You're like, whoa, hold on. That's not what I signed up for. I mean, I love, me personally, I love Asian fusion food, but like, that's not the steak maker that I want. So I think they need to get someone here who understands like the games that are currently on the system that are doing the best, that are ranking, that are winning awards is what folks want. And let the third parties handle the multiplayer thing. Like build up studios to like worry about multiplayer as third party partnerships and just focus on what you do really good. It's what Nintendo's been doing for decades. It seems to work just fine for them.
Nintendo's an anomaly. I don't associate anything Nintendo does with the other two. They do what the fuck they want to do. Like Nintendo is completely like they do what they want to do. So hold on, we got another person that's stopping in and just dropped by. What's up, brother?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, thank you so much for the invite. I just happened to be driving 4 hours from New York to Rhode Island.
Oh,
I see you laid the invite. I was listening to y'all while I was driving. I'm like, hey, let me jump in there and say what's going on to the brothers. Captain Logan, good to talk to you, man. I always listen to you guys on excuse me, on XEP every week. I appreciate all your great content. It's great to finally be able to podcast with you, of course, Mav and Fuzzy. I'm happy to be here. How y'all doing?
we good, man. And this is perfect. I'm glad that you jumped in when you jumped in, because we're just talking about we're talking about Jim Ryan and everything that's been going on over there. And obviously, I'm sure, shout out to you, K Asante, for coming through, man. I appreciate you, brother. Always love having you here. First and foremost, chat, we got to show him some love. Put the applause in the hand claps in the chat. I appreciate you coming through, Asante. But we're getting into this Jim Ryan stuff, man, because
Yes,
we gotta figure out what's good for Sony. Because are we asking the next CEO to just be a cog in the machine and come in and do what Sean Layton did, Asante? Or are we asking for somebody to come in and actually be innovative and try something different? Because if we're doing that, Jim was trying something different with the games as a service stuff. Now, it wasn't going over well, but I think it's a necessary, it's something that necessary that the company needs to do. They got to invest in multiplayer. They got to invest in that part of the business, something that they've ignored for 15 plus years. So where you at as far as like just what happened with Jim, and then ultimately like what are we looking at like going forward?
I think Captain Logan just like nailed it on the head right there, man. They are what they train you. They train you to expect what to expect from them, right? So when after they've trained you, right, as the consumer, and they've been successful at it, so successful that they are now, of course, the market leader, and now all of a sudden you're expecting, stakes, and all of a sudden out of nowhere they're now trying to diversify or change things up on you, especially how they deliver the message to you. It's jarring. Right, it's absolutely jarring. Now, I've heard a lot of takes as to why he is where he is now in the retirement and all that, and I would say any of the speculation is very valid, right? Including all the backdrop nuances of, well, he was supposed to get a better deal and he didn't, or he, people are starting to see, they're the market leader, but somehow they're cracking their neck trying to go backwards, look backwards, doing everything the third place finisher is using. Lots of that stuff. All that seems to kind of have some part in the gumbo, all this. And then he said, the flying and I would not begrudge him for saying that, because if you think about it, the last couple of months have been a lot of flying for that man for one reason or another. Right? I'm gonna leave that. I'm gonna throw that out there and leave the memes for you guys to pick up. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I can understand that, right? The first thing I thought when I heard all the news and Boom like called me up and said this to me, and I lost my mind on the phone. My first thing was, is he going to go have drinks with Bonnie Ross later? Because they have some conversations they need to have. But all jokes aside, like what Captain Logan was saying is absolutely true, right? Like, say what you will about Jim Ryan, but he has presided over some of the best times of PlayStation monetarily, right? But it seems his messaging and the way he threads his needle is the problem. Now, we can all speculate as to what really happened, or if it's good, if it's bad. My purview, based on the tea leaves I'm reading, he was very good for business, but so is Phil Spencer. And the difference is, Phil Spencer can be good for business without making you feel like a pay pig. And it didn't seem like Jim Ryan could do the same.
Yeah.
Right? He was very good for business, but he made you, the consumer, feel like a pay pig. Right? It just did.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't very relatable either. Didn't seem personable. Didn't have a whole lot of
personality. That's right. You see him in pictures with controllers upside down. I mean, come on. Stuff like that, right? So I suspect, and the reason why I say all this, right? Because, there's rumor and speculation. It could just be a coincidence. The man is tired. I get that, right? The reason I say this is, there will come a time where Phil Spencer will retire. We all assume that, right?
Yes.
But when I say who will replace Phil Spencer, there are 15 answers, right? And there's always one that's the right answer, and that's Sarah Bond. That's neither here nor there. But we all know that, right? You see her being groomed, or someone else. You don't know. They definitely can. You can tell that he is securing his legacy, as it were, and at some point he may move on, right? How is it that this man who came into the position in 2019, which is not that long ago, right, is taken off, decides to retire? Yes, it's 6 months, but that 6 months is kind of like a rubber stamp, because tomorrow he loses all his privileges. He loses all his tomorrow, literally. No, is it tomorrow or Monday? 31st, the 1st. So yeah, Friday. He loses all of his privileges. He loses everything. He'll still be there for 6 months, but in that 6 months he'll be there. He'll just be cleaning out his office and enjoying himself, because he will have no decision-making power. So much so that they're bringing in the mobile guy who talks about mobile and making money is the focus, and he's the CFO of Sony proper, right? They don't even have a second in command, right?
That's
I would have been
crazy to me.
super happy if I heard they're replacing him and Herman Hulse would replace him.
Mhm.
I'd be like, whoa, let's clap.
Yeah.
Or Shuhei Yoshida's coming back. I'd be like, oh, let's do this.
Yeah.
Why? Because they are gamers, they are game developers, they are people who have spent a lot of time understanding the craft that is gaming. And yes, it makes money, but that's something you say inside to your buddies and not to us. Right? They have, like, to this very day, I respect Shuhei Yoshida like no other in that organization, because he's a gamer's gamer, and you can tell. Every time a game comes out or any accolades need to be delivered, he is the first there to speak on it. Right? I sometimes get the vibe that he congratulates Microsoft in spite of Sony. Like, he's out there doing what he's supposed to do, even though all the others seem to kind of be like, well, I'm not sure if we really should be talking to them, right? Right? He's from an old guard. So I kind of get the sense that the reason why I get the sense that they don't like the brass, those that control Sony's coffers, don't like where they are now is, as a lot of folks have already said, when you come in, you preside over your previous predecessors' setups, right? And then you see them to fruition, right? And then towards the second half, then it's your time to start turning and doing different things, right? And it seems to me he has enjoyed a lot of the Sean Layden era up until now, and now it's his era, and whoever inherits moving forward is gonna kind of have he's gonna be in a bit of a pickle, because there's not much.
You got 13 games as a service, right? Baby. What you talking about?
But this is the point, right? This is exactly the issue. They are almost perverting the core ideals of PlayStation for the purpose of money, right? And the pay pigs are kind of starting to see through it.
That they make those kind of games, though.
Oh no, 100% it is. I will tell you, they were ahead of the game in most of this. They were ahead of the game in cloud. They let it go.
They didn't
exactly.
Yeah, they bought Gaikai, 300 million.
Exactly. You know, in the multiplayer space, you know, the game they're re-releasing, the Starship Trooper type of game. Forget the name of it. Helldivers 1, amazing game. Played it on the Vita all day, every day. On my PS3, loved that game. Where is SOCOM? They leave all those things alone, right? And then they realize, hey, we're missing that, and then they run not walk to go and do that. Right? And in running, not walking to go and do that, your consumers are left feeling like pay pigs. Rather than threading the needle of, hey, we are creative. There's a lot of creative juices in our platform. Look at all these amazing, AAA games that a single player that no one else can do better than us. And oh, by the way, here's this game with some microtransactions. That's how the needle is thread. Instead of, oh, no. Every game you know and love, every IP you know and love will be a will be a gas game of some kind in the next few years.
Oh, and by the way, the one you've been waiting on, Bungie threw that out the window.
Exactly. Right. So I won't continue. I'll let some of these fine folks continue on. But I see the writing on the wall a little bit. I feel like he may be looked at kind of like our buddy Donnie D in the later years, right? Where the question will be, who will preside after him, and what will they have to deal with to change that yacht / dinghy, right? Everborn was telling me last thing. Everborn was telling me we will know specifically whether his moves led him to being replaced or him leaving based on the next big decision you hear from Sony.
Yep.
Right. So to me, I was like, Oh, so if I hear PSVR 2 is now PC compatible, I know they kicked him out.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, yeah.
If I hear like 5 of the 10 gas games are now canceled, I know they kicked him out. So we shall see. That's
true.
what I think.
That
about it.
rope is definitely going to show us a lot when it gets revealed coming up this next year. When we start getting back into this news cycle, and we start hearing about what's next for Xbox and PlayStation, and yeah, that definitely will brighten things up. So let me throw this over to you, Mav. I know we've been going in on Jim here, brother. I know you had a lot to say when you came in the show. Walk through the door talking about Jim. So I know you was ready to go. We had already greased the pig, so to speak, on this one. But just where you at with Jim, man? Like, this was so sudden, dude. Like, nobody expected this. We always wondered, would he be able to weather the ABK storm? Like, how much did that actually like impact his job security? Because I felt like you said, he has lasted through some of the best financial times of PlayStation. So he has the resume, he has the pedigree, he makes the money, the bottom line's always met. So what was it?
I think here's my fun speculation, if you will, right? I feel like there's a little bit of everything going on here. I feel like, to Jason Schreier's report, I despise Jason Schreier, but his leaks are usually accurate when it comes to leaks and stuff, right? Like, he was the one that actually broke the Jim leaving in the first place, So the stuff that came out today about Sony being unsure about his AAA live service conversion for all of their first party studios, and how a lot of those studios are unsure about how to make those damn games, right? I feel like that is putting PlayStation in a very vulnerable place for the next couple years.
Awkward, I would
I
say as well.
Well, I mean, they have no pipeline lined up right now, and that's very unusual for Sony. Like, that usually they announce their games way ahead of time. This was the year for them to set that table like they did back in 2016, and yet they come out with Fair Games and Concord and a Marathon, and no big announcements of any big new games that the Sony fans are used to, that they're used to selling their consumers on, right? And then also unclear on when a lot of these games are coming out, or even what they are, right? So you have a lot of confusion from the teams that are supposedly being forced to make live service games, first party games. And when it came to the reports, that some of them may not even have campaigns, they may just be games of service, purely multiplayer experiences, and they don't know how to do that. So there's the unclearness about the direction and the uncertainty of the direction that way. Then I think ABK plays a factor into it, knowing that Microsoft's pipeline is solid and going to be immense, and they have Game Pass, which all these games are going to be day and date, including this stellar year they had this year, going into next year that looks great, and then it's not going to stop, right? So I think you see the failure as well of the PSVR, which you can lay at his feet, because I feel like a lot of the stuff that Jim got right was purely the past leadership's decisions on that lineup they set the table for back in 2016. He basically just rode the coast of success, made sure to lie to the fans to keep selling consoles. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, doing something completely different and changing Sony behind the scenes, and saying that fact in interviews. But when it came to direct messaging to the fans, never. It was always like, we believe in generations, where we believe in the kind of games that you guys love, and all these kind of things, right? And to his credit, I do think they needed to diversify, create more multiplayer experiences, and do different things. But the way he approached it, the way he did it, he sucked ass at it. You don't go and make all your tentpole stellar studios that are making all these great franchises and stuff, that are bred and formed to make a specific kind of game, all of a sudden say, hey, go make a bunch of live service shit to all of them, right? Then you hear about cancellations of some of those games behind the scenes as well. So you can give him credit for the acquisitions that he made. You can say, Bungie and all these things, that there's some things there that I think that maybe could see success down the line for them. But if you look at where things are right now and what's coming ahead for the next 2 to 3 years, you look at it, and right now it looks shaky. It looks scary, combined with the fact that your biggest competitor in Xbox, as far as what kind of platforms they are, they're looking solid and really good. And you may have screwed up so bad that you don't want to stick around for the fallout of the decisions that you've made. So I think it's pressure from the Sony executives. I think it's Microsoft getting their shit together and going really hard on value and variety and quality games, something that Sony cannot match with the pipeline that Xbox has, no matter how hard Sony tries. They just don't have the money for it. And then taking away the thing, at least a large quantity of it, that the Sony fans love the most. So you go out there and it's like, hey,
quick
what am I
aside for
supposed
you,
to
Mav.
do? What am I supposed to do? Like, he gave up. He's weak. He's a
Quick
coward.
aside for you, Mav. Here's real quick. What do you think of the idea that the nail in the coffin was the Microsoft leak? And all the stuff they're coming out with, and the games next year, and the 8 first parties, and all of that.
Well, remember,
some suggest that may be the nail in the coffin.
That was just the ZeniMax.
I didn't even consider that.
That was just the ZeniMax Bethesda side for the games that got leaked. And if they, when they saw ZeniMax Bethesda get acquired, if they didn't realize they were going to have all these different games come out over the next several years, then Sony's stupid to begin with, right?
So that's another thing too, Mav. Sorry to cut you off, man, but I want to get this in real quick too. That's another thing too. His awareness as well was poor. Or he ignored Game Pass, man. People forgot.
Oh,
he ignored. They completely ignored. They treated Game Pass like it was a cassette tape.
He said like, that all publishers hate it.
Yeah, like just ignore it. Oh, it'll go away. Treated it like Blockbuster. Like it was just gonna be something that came and went. It's not like that is a fatal mistake.
Yeah,
that is a fatal mistake.
Yeah, they see these revenue streams that Microsoft has. They see that Microsoft's having to spend less money to make more. All these different things, and guess what? Maybe it's because content and services is where the profit's at, not necessarily hardware. Right? You want to sell hardware, don't get me wrong, and Jim's amazing at selling hardware. All you got to do is smile, tell all the people out there, hey, all these things that anytime Xbox does something that gets a little bit of controversy, we're the opposite, right? Hey, come to PlayStation because we do things the right way. That's what Jim's motto basically is, right? Oh yeah, we're premium. That's why we can go up on prices. Hey, we're better than everybody else. That's why we can do this. That's why they can do that. But meanwhile, while he's saying all those lines and selling all this hardware, he's completely trying to copy Xbox in the background, but doing a horrible job at it because what he failed to realize is Xbox isn't all live service games. Xbox has some live service games. Xbox has subscription gaming. But the reason they're successful with it is because they put the value there. There's so many different things, and half stepping into the ecosystems and the way that Xbox is doing things is trying to get to the future. He's too late. Like he's too late. He's too slow on it. Maybe he had a hard time convincing the higher ups to go that road, but I don't know if it was the opposite or what, because half-stepping and converting all these studios to try and do something they're not used to for the sake of, the monetization and games as a service. I think they needed to do some of it, but they don't need to go all in like they did and leave themselves in a vulnerable state for the next few years. That's going to leave people without games to play. There's one first-party exclusive this year on PlayStation. One. There's one. Xbox got crucified last year when they had 3. There's one PlayStation first-party exclusive this year, and what do we have to look forward in 2024? You want to say what's Jim's legacy? Look at the pipeline that he's put out there for us to look forward to in the future, and why didn't they show what they had in store for us this year at the 2 different showcases that gave them that opportunity? They didn't do it. They didn't do it because they're in a shaky spot. And he knows it. He's a coward. He got out of there before the shit hit the fan. And he sees the writing on the wall. He sees it. He knows the rough road is ahead. And he says, you know what? I'm going to have to do a lot of flying to fix this shit. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, and I'm going to say I don't like to fly just as some kind of excuse. And like, that's so stupid. There's so much to this. I feel like, you know, I I do think there's some things that he's trying to do that were in the right way of thinking. He just was horrible at managing game studios and the direction that they need to go in the future, and it put them in a horrible position. And PlayStation has become a boring brand because of it.
That's crazy to say. It's a lot of different things. Before I throw this over to you, Fuzz, this
Mhm.
we talked about this multiple times. Fuzz, you Mr. Tea Leaves over here. Logan, you gotta hear this stuff because Fuzz has already called this stuff a long time ago. We got receipts and everything. But Fuzz, like, it's crazy to think that like all the evidence that Mav presented, all the evidence, the case that Logan presented, the case that
Mhm.
Kay Asante presented, are all viable cases, and they're all
Yeah.
a little bit different. None of them presented the same exact argument. It's crazy to see that we're here, and even with the success of the hardware that Jim's having, he's been able to ride the wave essentially of a
Mhm.
lot of the success of the previous regime over there at Sony, seeing it kind of just fall out from under him. Like, where did we
Yeah.
go wrong, Fuzz?
Well, the funny thing is, when I thought he was leaving, I didn't think he would beat Bobby Kotick out the door. Like, I know both of those guys were going to be out of this deal when all the dust clears, kind of thing. And it was a matter of, I figured maybe he could hang in there for like a year or two. But when you have your legacy kind of tied around or anchored by this ABK deal and in the efforts to block it, and then you wind up having to come back to the table and you get a worse deal than what you were initially offered, whether higher ups wanted to push him out because of that, or whether the higher ups are the ones that help push them into that corner. um, I guess we won't know until much later on, but it just seemed like he was putting so much energy and effort into blocking this deal in a way that if it ever didn't, or if it ever did go through, that I knew his days were numbered at that point. So seeing him step down, maybe it was a voluntary thing in the sense that he kind of sees some of the writing on the wall and what's to come. Because if you're told, hey, you got to block this deal at all costs necessary, kind of thing, and it looks like it's going through now, you know, either they're going to give you the pink slip or you might as well, get out of there while the getting's good, because, Xbox is now starting to get its cadence down. It's now starting to release consistently and releasing games that are praised, and it's going to be pretty much a nonstop or a floodgate in coming months, kind of thing. So if your games as a service are still in development because Bungie is sniping them in the background, kind of thing, you're going to be in a hole for a while, where you're going to have these, maybe one, first party AAA release kind of thing, and you only have but so much of a wallet to go ahead and, money hat, these third parties and things like that. And it looks like Square isn't the cash cow that you once thought it was. One, they're already hurting because you kind of drained them to some extent, and two, they're starting to buddy up with Xbox in the sense that they, whatever the case may have been, whether it was the fallout that Xbox or Microsoft didn't buy, Crystal Dynamics or Montreal or Eidos Montreal from them before, and that's what kind of broke up the relationship that they were having prior, or if there were other things where Sony kind of pushed that relationship aside, kind of thing, they were pretty much backing themselves into a corner. And it's almost like the way the Xbox One generation started, where they kind of, had everything lined up for the launch of the console and then tried to rely on third party things, but they didn't have the studios as far as for the first party, at least at the beginning. And then, Sony was the opposite the beginning of last gen, where they didn't have the first party, up and going at launch. They leaned on third parties and indies, and then once their first party started going, it was, off to the races, kind of thing. So now, 7-10 years later, it's almost like, complete role reversal. They had their hope, they shot their whole load in the first 2 years, whether those were kind of holdover games from the PS4 that, they could have, resold on the PS5, and they, spread them out a little bit so they could be more of a PS5 centric. But oh yeah, by the way, we still have a PS4 version. We won't exactly know, but it just seemed like a lot of the stuff that they had in the early part of this generation was stuff that was it could have just been finalized in the PS4 generation itself. But yeah, him leaving, I look at it as a good thing because while he was trying to change, I guess, the MO of Sony to some extent by bringing more games to PC, which I'm in favor of, by focusing on a variety of different games, which they have IPs that nowadays would be so perfect to have as a games as a service, whether it be SOCOM or after doing the TV show for Twisted Metal, why not have a Twisted Metal game? Sure, Destruction All Stars didn't land like I guess they were expecting, but you have the Twisted Metal IP, you have the TV show. You should be able to, unless you're going to pull like a 90s, IP or licensed IP kind of crappy game release, you should be able to pull off a Twisted Metal multiplayer these days, especially with having, the whatever scripts that your TV and movie division wrote for that show. You should be able to incorporate that in the game and have that readily available. And then when they went with the whole, Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West multiplayer game that kind of leaked and it looked more Fortnite-y than, Horizon itself. If your fan base is all about the visuals and they praise Horizon for being this, visual showpiece, why oh why would you go with this art style that doesn't match the game? I understand you want to use the IP for the recognition so that way it's a little bit less of a risk, but it would have been easier to take the visuals from Horizon Forbidden West and turn it into a Monster Hunter game. Like, who would not want to play? Like, for those that love Monster Hunter, can you imagine hunting dino robots or basically dinobots in Horizon as a multiplayer? I think that would have been the better approach as opposed to going with this Fortnite like rip off that they were going to try and push on their fan base. I think that would have been the better use of that IP. And then when it comes to, they used to be known for racing. They were the ones that had the original Sim Racer when Gran Turismo released, what was that, 25 years ago. They haven't really done well with the arcade racers, and they have access to the key location that the successful, arcade racer has, or that the successful arcade racer of today. People are requesting that they go to Japan for like Horizon 6. Why not make an arcade racer using some of the car models? And I know, depending on who you talk to, some people are fans of it, some people are not fans of the visuals in Gran Turismo, but at least start and have an arcade racer in Japan where you have the twisting mountain roads for drifting, you have the highway scene for street racing, you have the perfect location in your backyard, and you have Polyphony Digital there. So if you want to expand that team, yes, they are slow, but expand that team to go out in there and pretty much do a 1-to-1 variation of like Tokyo or something along those lines. And that would be an easy sell as far as for a games as a service under the PlayStation banner. I think that would garner more attention than a Jiggly Burger. What is that, Concord or whatever they had that one showing where we don't even know what the game is. We just know it involves space and fast food. Why that makes no sense to me. But and another thing that didn't make sense under Jim's regime is that it was great to buy Bungie because they can help your teams get on board to this games as a service a little bit easier or a little bit faster than trying to do it from scratch kind of thing. But why oh why would you give them controlling interests in a way where Naughty Dog created factions for the first Last of Us on their own? They didn't have any problems, and the fans seem to love that. So why would you give them yay or nay say on the new one? Like, if anything, they should be more in an advisory role. Like, hey, maybe consider this for seasonal passes or this. Although, if you look back at it, when it comes to Destiny, the fan base is kind of split on how successful Bungie's been, keeping that game going. Some people are very happy with it. Some people can't stand it. A lot of people will jump in when there's new content, and then It's like, crickets afterwards, except for the lifers playing that game. Why would you give them the last say on Naughty Dog, who has already brought a game that was for their fans or with their fan base was already somewhat of a hit? That didn't make sense to me. So that's
Fuzzy, can I
another
ask you a
reason.
question about that one? Like,
Yeah.
I've been thinking about that one for a little bit, and maybe I have an opposing view, so that might make this a little interesting here, right?
Yeah.
Before they bought Naughty Dog, right? Naughty Dog. Before they bought Bungie, Naughty Dog was still potentially working on this factions thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we all know how much we love factions. And a lot of people who happen to play it, even the Uncharted multiplayers. Anytime
Yeah.
anybody plays a multiplayer that comes from them, they love it and they say it's amazing, right? But
Mhm.
even before Bungie became part of the fray, they were being very wishy-washy with the factions and when it would come
Yeah.
out. And so
Yeah, that's
it kind of
true.
makes me think, and here's my opposing view here. It kind of makes me think at the scale Jim wanted it, they probably maybe weren't able to do so. And
Yeah.
Bungie gave them that confirmation. Maybe Bungie kind of, because we haven't really seen the product that was out there. Maybe
True.
Bungie was on to something. We don't know, right?
It
Like,
is quite possible, and it was weird because I guess one of the main people from Naughty Dog wound up resigning or stepping down shortly after, like within 2 months or so of that whole dust up of Bungie shooting it down. It was kind of like, well, was it a hurt feelings thing? Was there some tension going on, or was it just a matter of I'm out of here kind of deal? But maybe they saw something that wasn't worthwhile bringing out. But honestly, considering the initial factions, they should have probably just did a HD remaster of the original factions when they released that remaster of
See, that's the reason why I'm saying what I'm saying, right? All
Yeah.
of their AAA actual multiplayer attempts have been very good and not microtransaction heavy. They're
Yeah.
still very creative there. And possibly Jim was like, nah, man, we need more than that. We need the microtransactions. And they probably couldn't do it. Hence
Yeah.
Bungie.
Well,
You
Herman
know?
already came out and said, "Look, that 30 mil is good for 30 days, but I need some continuous income. Like we
Mhm.
need some more streams of revenue here, buddy. We need some games. So that's the motivation there. You know what I mean? You even
Yeah.
had the guy with the hands directly on the purse string saying, "Look, that 30 mil is good. I love Spider-Man as well. Everybody loves Spider-Man, but that ain't enough." So when you getting that kind of pressure from the top down, you're gonna make those kind of decisions. So I mean, look,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it is what it is with Jim, and he signed off on these ideas. I
Mhm.
wonder though how, and it's gonna, and we can all answer this, right? Logan, Mav, Kesante, Fuzz, we can all answer this too. Like, how long are those are gonna stay in production? Are they gonna continue down the path that Jim set forth? That's usually how Sony works. But like, is this going to be some unprecedented? Like, nope, we're chopping that. We're chopping that. They already didn't they step away from KOTOR?
I
The
think
remake?
I think they've already
Like,
started doing that. Because it wasn't too long ago where we got news that some of those games have been canceled. So I don't think that was Jim's decision.
maybe not.
I think it was pressure, and like realizing that this idea to force these studios that don't know how to make these games is not actually working. Remember, some of those were unannounced.
Yeah.
Some of those are unannounced. Who knows which studios and which games they are? Remember when they said we want to turn every single one of our big franchises into a live service multiplayer game?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is not exciting.
No, and not especially to a Sony fan base that's not used to that as well.
Yeah.
They are used to the single that you guys have weaned them on a particular type of experience, and that's it. That's a good game to the Sony fan base. Anything outside of that, you're pushing it, especially with anything microtransaction heavy, game as a service related. That's like snake oil. No, thank you. We don't want that.
Yeah, and I feel like they are they've experimented with this, and Jim, I think, was a little clueless on game development, with trying to force the issue there, and to a lot of these franchises that have been created by these great developers or that have really like fostered them or really put their all into them becoming what they were. Now all of a sudden you're being asked to change it into something else again. Like it's like that's not what this game is. Like that's not what this franchise is. It's not what it's all about. And I feel like they need some games like that. And that's why maybe what we see is the ones that were announced were the new IPs from studios we've never heard of, instead of the other games of the big franchises, right? Like we still haven't seen the Horizon game. We still haven't seen uh whatever
Story
other
bar-
franchises that like they're doing with live service. So I feel like there's already been axing of some of those projects. The other thing, I think Sony's coming to realization that this big wave and swell of live service has kind of met a certain level, and it's not other companies trying to do this and all get into the same thing are struggling to do so, and they're canceling their projects as well. We've seen it from Sega with Hyenas just now. We see Epic ridiculously laying people off because they're not making as much money as they want to, or for whatever reason. All these other things, you're seeing different studios either cancel games
the
or
Fall
struggle.
Guys studio got shut down.
A lot of live servicey type stuff and a lot of the samey kind of games you're seeing pulling away from the investments in. You're seeing layoffs, you're seeing all these different things, and I think Sony's no different. I think they kind of went too deep into this, and that's why I think they're vulnerable coming forward. And I think Sony's high ups are looking at this and they kind of put a little bit of the blame on Jim for not handling the situations properly and putting the right pieces in place to make the transition into being able to make successful live service games, right? So also too little too late on a lot of the stuff, whether it's Sony's high ups that didn't want it or it's Jim or whoever's fault it is. It was Jim's job to convince them to do day and date on PC, to do the PC app, to get it out, to get all of those things operating and running so that way they can get to the more players they're striving for. Instead, they've wasted 3 years of this generation selling the games to the same players over and over again without any much growth for software or content and services. Remember, hardware's up every financial report. But what's down? Software and services and software and content and services, right? Those are the profit makers. Those are the money makers for PlayStation. They don't make very much money on hardware, right? So if you're selling boxes, that's great. It should mean you have more people in the ecosystem. But remember all the reports, people are playing less games on PlayStation. That's what's happening. And then meanwhile, you see the engagement on all of these Xbox games. Oh, wow. Minecraft Dungeons has over 25 million players. Really? Minecraft Dungeons does? Are you serious?
That's a multi-plat game, though. Like,
yeah, it's
been out for years.
Well, Marathon's going to be multi-plat too, and it should be, right?
It's a hard comparison to make, though, when you look at that.
But it's in Game Pass day one.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's in Game Pass day one. It's on PC. It's other places. PlayStation, my point is PlayStation is too far behind and kept dipping their toe into all these different things because they saw the model as sell a box, promote games to sell on this box, and that we're going to keep being successful, and that way we're not going to change. Now, Jim saw the writing on the wall. He's like, okay, we need to change some. We need to start doing this other stuff. But dipping your toe into as way inferior subscription service, where's the PC app that was rumored and leaked a couple of years ago that they were making? Coming out with PC games 2 years later is not going to cut it for people that are really excited to play those games right away. You're not going to get anywhere near as many sales on that stuff. That's why you see these player engagement growths on Xbox with all these player numbers for franchises that honestly have no right comparing against the monster franchises that Sony has put up. Who would you say should have more players? A game like Horizon Forbidden West or State of Decay? Right? Like State of Decay has more. State of Decay 2 has more players than Horizon. Probably both games combined.
But is that because of Game Pass or is that because it's a multiplayer game?
It's because of both. It's because of both. And PlayStation has not done it. They have not done it. They've dipped their toe in. They have not done it. Jim tries to fix the situation, go all in change all their first party studios, everything. You guys are all making multiplayer shit now. Everything's games of service. You know, we're going to go all of our franchises, all this stuff. And they're like, wait, we don't know what we're doing here, guys. Like, we don't know how to do this. You know, it's mismanagement. That's my point. It's mismanagement. It's not seeing the writing on the wall, being too late to convince Sony to get in on this stuff, right? Remember, Phil had to convince Xbox to Microsoft to do this. Phil had to convince Microsoft to save Xbox, to do Game Pass, to do all these things to change the ecosystem. Now, PlayStation was in a position of strength, number one, but resting on your laurels sitting at number one has gotten several companies in trouble in the past. I'm not saying they're doomed or anything, but right now, if you look at the couple years ahead, it's a lot shakier than it was because they have failed to get all of those things running. Meanwhile, Xbox has gotten their pipeline now. Like I
think the difference here, though, and sorry for me interjecting, I think the difference is that the Sony playbook still works. We see Nintendo doing it as well. They're just leaning heavily into it. I think the thing here is that the studios that they had were so off cadence of when their releases were supposed to happen, is that we've gotten everything so front loaded onto this generation that we're now seeing a downtime between those studios, and Sony was relying on Bethesda to be one of those backers, and for things like Forspoken and Final Fantasy 16 to hit heavier than they have. They rely heavily on third party for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they rolled the dice for sure.
The thing about Sony though is they never sell games as much as Nintendo does, right? Then the model is very
it still
successful.
works.
It works, but not where they want to go. They said themselves that they need to get past that 150 million barrier of consumers in that premium console market. They need to branch out. They need to do these things. The amount of players that keep selling their games to is not enough. The software sales on the games have been down, and every single financial softwares have been down for Sony. But yet they've had the games. They've had the games. They've had the God of Wars. They've had the Horizons. They've had GT7. They've had Returnal. They had three. Now will be 3 different Spider-Mans. They've had the games. Yet, are they where they want to be? I don't see that. I don't see it. Instead, I see a troubled road ahead for them.
I mean, they're still in first place.
Well, hold on here. Let me interject real quick. To Map's point, even though we may not pay as much attention to them, what is the number one console in Japan? Eating Sony's lunch at every turn.
Switch, yeah.
Yes. So Japan is now looking at Jim Ryan. This is what we're talking about, where Sony is, right? Looking at Jim and his big plan. In Japan, their home territory, they're getting eaten alive. In America, their once step shoe competitor is now owns the biggest IP. They could have got a better deal, but they didn't. You know, everywhere they look, they're getting squashed, even though they're still the market leader. Right?
Yeah.
This comes down to projections and based on trends that they've seen the last couple of years, right? They see what's happened with their software sales. They see what's happening with the lack of what they have in their pipeline. They see where they need to be in other places as well. They've said this, right? They have said this after the financial reports that came from them directly about these issues, right? Yet now we're in a position with less big AAA single player games, the games that work, supposedly, than we've ever seen before from PlayStation. Where were the announcements this year? When there's only one, like besides third party exclusives, there's Spider-Man 2 this year, and we know nothing about first party for 2024, 2025. Usually they announce their games 2 or 3 years ahead of time.
Yeah,
and
Starfield was going to be that exclusive.
Yeah, and they lost that too. That's what I'm saying.
Right, but I'm 7 out of 10 Starfield.
That's still.
Oh, you crazy! Don't do that. Don't do that, Logan.
But then you also raise a concern about too much of a dependency on third-party exclusives to fulfill your portfolio and your lineup to bring consumers in as well. It's going to hurt them with Call of Duty. It's going to hurt them already with Starfield. And it's also going to hurt them with failure games like Forspoken, Babylon's Fall and stuff like that as well. These games that they have to fulfill from third party, people like to champion them when they're successes as, oh yeah, look at our amazing lineup, but they never talk about the failures that are those third party exclusives as well, right? That all that stuff matters. And regardless, at the end of the day, when the thing that matters the most is the content and services and the amount of people playing your games and the game sales alone are what drives profit. Those things have been down consistently, even though hardware sales have been up. And that's got to be troubling if you're looking at the model that's supposed to be working, right? And then you're looking forward at what do we do for the future and how do we branch out beyond this, right? Companies aren't comfortable with staying stagnant. They need growth. And they've lived in Jim Ryan's era, they've been a stagnant company with the delivery of everything they put out towards fans. Meanwhile, trying to implement changes that weren't working behind the scenes and left them in now this position where they're going to potentially have the roughest road the next 2 years that we've seen from PlayStation. What games are exciting for us the next 2 years announced right now for PlayStation from first party?
They haven't let us know.
100%. They haven't let us know.
But that doesn't mean that they're not coming, though.
But why haven't they? Why they had 2 opportunities to tell us this year about those games?
Because they were pushing for Final Fantasy 16 and Spider-Man 2. Why would you need to like expand upon what's going on beyond that when you haven't even launched your main game this year?
Because that's PlayStation's MO. That's what they've done.
Well, yeah, that's of course that's Nintendo's MO as well too. I don't know what's coming out next year for Nintendo. It'll be good.
It's been PlayStation's MO to announce games 2 or 3 years ahead of time.
It's been their MO and it's shot them in the foot numerous times. People constantly bugging them, being like, "Where are these games? Where are these games?"
Well, I mean,
so Cam, are you assuming that? Is it your thoughts that they do have some bullets in the tank in the chamber? They're just kind of sitting on it, waiting for the time. Okay.
Why
I know that I know like Ghost of Tsushima 2, like that's a shoe-in, right? I'm thinking even though they haven't announced it, 2024, I expect to see that, right? We've talked about Wolverine, right? Insomniac is prolific; they cannot be denied. But besides that, I'm still kind of, and I've been genuinely trying to find, where those are. But like to Mav's point, they tend to project, they project confidence, and they haven't done that now. So it's kind of shaking people's resolve. That and Schreier's reports of the thing that the delays of COVID that affected Xbox a certain way at the beginning of the gen. It seems that now, since they had their games in the pipeline early enough, they were able to release during that time, and now their drought is coming. There's almost a year of lack of content there too. It's just not a calendar beginning of the year to the end. It's more 6 months of the one year and 6 months of the other. But it looks like they're both kind of, eating that loss their own way. You know what I mean? So I do hear you on the potential. Yeah, I do hear you the potential that they may have some in the chamber. But to Mav's point, it's very unusual that they're so quiet, even though there are losses here and there. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
They'd be quick to come out and say, "Hey, no problem here. Nothing to see here. We are still here. We are still confident." But they haven't done that yet, and it's breeding worry. It's
not the typical Sony behavior. Let me get to these super chats real quick here. We're having such a good conversation. I knew this would be a good one, man. I knew this Jim Ryan topic would be good. Let me get to these super chats real quick. So shout out to the first super chat. Let me pull it up here. We got from Ashtray799. He said, "How much do you guys think it will cost to make these 12 to 13 games as service games?" I say at least $2 billion. Who knows what the price tag is going to be on those, brother? I mean, we'll see. Obviously, like I said, we were just talking about maybe that list even being chopped down. Who knows? So we'll get to that. But let me get to these other super chats. But thank you once again. Appreciate it, Ashtray. So we got Splendiferous with the $2 super chat. He said, "Mav, are you implying that Jim is not being honest, man?" So I think I think Mav has probably answered that question like 16 times during his opportunity he got to talk. But let me get to this last one real quick. $2 super chat from Voidlock. He said, "Sony games are more movies than fun. Nintendo equal fun." That's all subjective. We got to make sure we say that. You know what I mean? But some people tend to agree that. But this is a phenomenal topic, and I knew this was going to be something that we all got like really, really wrapped up into because it's such an interesting thing. It was completely blindsided all of us. I can't say any of us, maybe outside of Fuzz, saw it coming. I mean, I give you a credit, Fuzz. I know you kind of talked about this. But like it's crazy to think that this is just something that's actually happening, and it's so abrupt. I think is what's catching us off guard as well too. It's not like there's a wind down period or anything. Like you said, he loses. He can't even get in the parking lot tomorrow on Monday. He can't even pull in the gate. They turning him around like, nah, you got to wait in the visitor area. Like he can't even get in. So
But
like,
he's there till I think like March 30th.
okay, so maybe he
but
could get in, but
yeah, he'll be in there, but his major decision making power is
gone.
pretty much gone. He's just going to be like a transition period, getting them up to speed on everything that's kind of like going on and what they've been doing and all this kind of stuff. And I feel like the interim could be interesting what they do in the meantime. But will he have even the power to make big decisions, not knowing if he's going to be there for the long term?
Yeah.
Or is this going to be kind of a stale like period of time for them where they just kind of stand pat? I don't know.
I guess yes. Coming out of this, I guess that's going to be interesting to see. And I know, KSanti, you brought that up too a little bit about how do they catch themselves from this quote unquote free fall, right? That they're having, right? For in Sony's case, right? Like how do they right themselves is going to be interesting. Like how do they get out of this? Because this is unprecedented. Sony doesn't have these periods of uncertainty, not for at least as long as this period has been.
Not since PS3, right?
Yeah.
But we should always hedge and say, look, this is all speculation that we have fun speculation in the house, so why not?
Yeah. Co-mayor speculation.
Exactly.
Yeah, and everything. If they come out next year, Asante and Logan, if they come out next year and announce a huge pipeline of games for the next 2 years, like, hey, yeah, take everything I say back.
But we would be happy to be wrong, but unfortunately, it looks like they're leaving that for us to they're leaving room for that fun speculation, and it's not really fun for them because it's very negative in every aspect. Even their own diehard fans are like, oh wow, this is not it, right? So I'm hoping to be wrong because I want a strong Sony. I want my device I bought to be useful, right? To be valuable. I am waiting for the day they say, yeah, PC capable of PSVR 2, and I will put my money down ASAP, right? I want them to right the ship. The question is, how long will it take, right? When Phil first became head of my Xbox, how long did it take for him to turn that yacht around?
It was about 18 months.
Probably, it took some time.
At least, yeah.
It took some time, right? And we didn't even get to see his true vision until I'd say the 1X, which was his first stamp on the job, right? So my question is, who will be the one to replace him? Will it be someone specifically from Japan? Because that will be very telling. Or will Herman actually get it ultimately? Or will somebody who's very gaming focused in the community, in the mind of the consumer get it? Right? That will be telling. And then what will those decisions that have been made that we were all questioning, like your various gas, continue? Or do we see them kind of pivot? Or all of a sudden Connect is optional? You know what I'm saying? Like that's what will tell where we are with it. If we wake up one morning and Connect becomes optional like it was, then we know, okay, some changes are happening.
Yeah.
Right?
I like that analogy too. I like that. But I want to make sure, Fuzz, I know we got to get to the next topic here, man. And I know we got some other things that we need to talk about, but that was a great one, chat. I appreciate you guys for stopping in. You guys are freaking amazing. What's up, Vandal, OCD, Zinc, Cyber, everybody hanging out in the chat. You guys are awesome. But Fuzz, where we going with this one, brother?
We'll talk about Starfield, potentially reaching $1 billion.
Ooh, okay. I like that.
Yeah, let me just double check something here as far as the source, but I believe it was Game Insider or Gaming Insider or Insider Gaming, I should say. Had a note as far as Starfield potentially reaching $1 billion as far as its current projection. Initially, from some of the court documents that we saw that were leaked, Xbox had already considered that this would be, somewhere in the 600 million range pretty easily. And I'm pretty sure they looked at like statistics from previous Bethesda games and how certain games like AAA games track within like the Game Pass model and, how many pre-sales or pre-orders they had and whatnot. But for a new IP, reaching that $1 billion mark is pretty, I wouldn't say telling, but it is a significant
in about a month as well. We got to make sure we keep that's in 30 days, right? Not even 30 days.
Yeah. So with that being kind of the the benchmark in which we list if a game is successful or if it's a worthy new IP, reaching that $1 billion mark is definitely something in their pocket at this point. But I'll start off with I'm trying to figure out how I can put this as a question, or if there's other things that coming down the line from Bethesda that you would like to see. So starting with you, Captain Logan, when it comes to Bethesda releasing, like, whether it be the next Starfield or the MMO version, or with Elder Scrolls 6 hopefully in the near future, or somewhat near future, what are your expectations of those titles, or their next title potentially reaching that $1 billion mark within like, let's say, the first 30 days?
They've earned a lot of goodwill back, especially with Starfield. I think a lot of folks were kind of downtrodden with Fallout 76. I think it's very possible that Elder Scrolls 6 does what we think it will and be the next Skyrim. I think the chances are really good. I just think that there's going to have to be a lot of growth for Bethesda. The games they make are the way they are, but I think that looking at games like Cyberpunk and Immortals of Avium with Unreal and seeing like what they've been able to do just with character interactions and with facial animation, stuff like that, there's definitely a style that Bethesda has that I think could use some tweaks. And if that comes with Elder Scrolls 6, then and I feel if it feels a little more natural having conversations with people in games, I think that would be a huge step in the right direction for them to be able to hit that mark.
Nice. I'll go to you, Asante. What are your thoughts as far as Bethesda's one of their upcoming titles reaching the $1 billion mark within like the first 30 days or so?
Yeah, I think it's a super interesting question. Like, first and foremost, as close as Starfield has gotten and will probably get to, I find that like super, super impressive. And it really, really like drives home that point that the narrative that Game Pass is debilitating to game sales is not necessarily the case, right? They're still tracking to hit where they need to hit, and it's pretty damn impressive, right? You would think that if you have access to the game, without having to pay anything, that would then cause a lot more folks to use it that way. But I double dipped. A bunch of people that I know have,
same,
right?
Yep.
Right. A lot of us own the Constellation Edition and all of that, and you saw what the numbers did on Steam, where none of that was available, and they were all paying $100. So it's super impressive. It is super, super impressive. Now, like, as far as what they would do on their next one, I could see Elder Scrolls also going there, right? Because as we've talked about in the past, for whatever you consider what you think about the game they've made, this game was made initially as a third-party game, right? Starfield is at its core a third-party game, and if you want me to be slanderous, I consider that a PlayStation game because that's the biggest pool when you start third-party development. So when that is no longer a factor in the equation for their next the project, starting from the console base, starting from the PC source, I think you'll see a whole lot of differences there, right? You'll see a lot more optimization. Right now, Starfield skin textures compared to console versus PC is hugely different.
Yes.
Like, hugely different. And it's not because the hardware can't handle it, right? It's because of decisions that were made when they first started the project. And at that time, they didn't care that Xbox was needed different sauce than PlayStation did. So I think all that will help in the future, right? But to Captain Logan's point about facial animations and expressions and things, I would say temper your expectations, good sir, because probably the next one will be just they'll be like, oh, by the way, remember Starfield? We was all in the sky. Yeah. Now we just created the next Elder Scrolls. Starfield's still up there, but then you get on the ground and then you have Elder Scrolls. When they make the scope bigger, the faces get weirder, and they always seem to make the
That
scope
guy,
bigger,
there
you
had
know?
to be a trade-off, right,
sandwiches.
Hunter, right?
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
When you can literally have Elder Scrolls 6 on the ground and that's the planet you're on, but then you jump into space and you're still in Starfield. Yeah, you're gonna see they're gonna have to take a few concessions here and there, right? And of course,
Yeah.
as you know, the creation engine is like a wonderfully crazy, weird amalgamation of years and years of stitching together all this, and it's the best it's been, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know
Yeah.
if I'll ever be able to see them hit the CDPR levels with their animations while still keeping their scope. So I don't know. We'll see. If they do that, wow, will I be impressed? Holy
Yeah.
crap, that'd be awesome.
Do you want Elder Scrolls 6 to be as big as Starfield?
I don't necessarily
That's a
know
good
if the
question.
size is because I love Starfield. I really do. And I'm a No Man's Sky guy. I'm a guy who's loved some of the older Elder Scroll, some of the older Bethesda stuff. I'm a big Mass Effect guy. They're literally speaking my language with all this, and I'm a huge sci-fi guy. So like they spoke my language with this game. I have
Yeah.
like 10 days in, right? So so do I see it being that big? As long as it can still be as impactful, right? Because you lose the thread sometimes when you just go over broad with your scope. The cool thing about what I see, at least in Starfield, is the broad scope they chose was more broad in content rather than scale. The scale is the scale of content, the scale of the people, the scale of all the voice actors and all the dialogue and all the right. So as long as there's just so much to do, I can see people enjoying that. Like for me specifically, right now, even with Starfield, I've started resenting the game. I cannot stop playing it, but when I am playing it, I'm upset because I should be playing some other games. You know what I'm saying? I'm 10 days in and I see no end in sight anywhere. So
Yeah.
I hope that if they're going bigger and broader, that we have some off ramps here and there. Because now Party Animals has become my palate cleanser because it's a little too much to keep playing that game day in and day out, right? So to the point of scale, I hope they keep that in mind as they're moving forward.
The reason I asked was because I look at Obsidian as kind of like my smaller Bethesda, and Outer Worlds was a smaller version of Starfield. I think I honestly like Outer Worlds better, but Avowed's coming, and I think it'll hit sooner, and I think it'll probably be smaller, and that could say a lot about it.
Yep, and I really like that your analogy as the smaller brother. Yes, they seem that way, right? And I really appreciate that they're positioning themselves that way. I remember people were a little bit upset by the changes to Avowed from the first trailer to the second one, and I was like, no, this is excellent, right? Why should you compete with your brothers across the table? Give us something different that they don't give us. So I'm in agreement with you.
Yeah,
that was a change in director, artistic director, actually.
Yeah. Oh, which is great. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. I was curious. Sorry, Fuzz.
No. That you're fine. Awesome feedback from both of you guys on this, and we'll get over to you, Mav. What do you think as far as their next release title of it reaching 1 billion within like the first, let's say 30 days, give or take? What do you think of whether it be Fallout, the next Fallout, another Starfield, storyline, or a Elder Scrolls 6? What do you think?
Yeah, I think the best chance for that is Elder Scrolls, right? Just because as much hype as we've seen now, right, with what Skyrim meant to everybody, the next one is going to be Elder Scrolls 6, and I think Starfield's going to have a long life. I think whatever ZeniMax Online is cooking is going to be very interesting as well. That's going to have a really chance to be something huge. And I don't know if we can really comprehend what it is right now. There's a lot of rumors about what it could be. It could be a Starfield MMO. It could be a Star Wars thing, or it could be something else completely. But we know that they're extremely excited about it, being that it's going to be an online live service game like ZeniMax does, and they're going to be obviously building up from what Elder Scrolls Online was. Then the sky's the limit for what this new game that they're making could be, because they've really established themselves with Elder Scrolls Online and being a top tier MMO developer, right? So their next game is going to be absolutely huge. But besides that, like single player wise, for those kind of games where you're talking about initial sales and all those kind of things, it's going to be Elder Scrolls 6 because Bethesda proved again that they haven't lost their magic of being a pure Bethesda ass game, Bethesda creator. I mean, it permeates throughout Starfield all the way through. But I feel like the next Elder Scrolls will be kind of a return home to a lot of those other Bethesda fans who don't necessarily like the space stuff, don't like how the it's cut into pieces because you have to fast travel more because it's like on different planets and stuff like that. So as far as to Logan's question as well about the scope, personally for me, like I think Skyrim is like the right size. You know, I wouldn't go too much larger than that because it's already plenty big. But the key thing with Bethesda when they do Elder Scrolls 6 is they will get to show off something else, right? Because when you're operating at not as crazy of a scale as Starfield, you have a chance to do even more great things within that world. Like you were kind of talking about that Keosante about, going too ambitious. Sometimes you lose things, right? So what I want from the next Elder Scrolls is to get like graphics to an unbelievable level for them. I want the immersion of the environment, the storytelling, everything to be like they've never done before. And I think that's the kind of game we're going to get with Skyrim is something that again, like Starfield's doing for me, is setting the pushing the genres forward. I think Skyrim, the next Elder Scrolls is going to do that and tops.
So you want them to go Unreal Engine 5 and this creation engine? Is what you're
No.
I don't know, man.
Because
look
it might
at
need
Logan.
Hell
to.
no. Open
Because
world
they might
game.
need to get the faces you're talking about. You
No,
know?
I don't. Like here's the thing. They've already made such strides between the last games that they've made into Starfield. I mean, the jump that they did is immense, right? And when you tone down the scope slightly from what Starfield is to be able to focus on some of more of those things, I think they're even capable of doing more. And I'm not saying that it needs to
Yeah,
look
good
like
point.
it doesn't
Good
need
point.
to. It doesn't need to look like a single player linear game where like the graphics are like everything the game is about. I'm
Yeah.
saying like for Bethesda, a chance to show off more of what they can do in those elements that they haven't really had a chance to before. I think we're going to see that from them in this. And don't do it in Unreal Engine, please, for the love of God.
I was triggering you, sir. It worked. Congratulations.
Yeah, I thought Umbra slipped in here for a second. You talking crazy?
No, because myself and Mav usually fight against Umbra, so that's why I
I know,
triggered.
right?
You're taking
Anti-Umbra.
if you're doing that, you're taking everything about what makes Bethesda special with being
Yeah.
able to do all of the environment
Exactly.
stuff about all the different objects, all the different things. Their engine that they have is more than just the graphics and
Look at
stuff
Logan.
like that.
I don't
Look at
know,
Logan.
man.
It's
I watched
Logan.
Pan Am scoot out from underneath her card the other day, and I was like, "Damn, Unreal's good. Could
Yeah.
be, there's some good. CD Red's got some magic going."
if they were
Sure.
making a cyberpunk type game, sure, but this is going to be a Bethesda game, and that's the thing about the creation engine. And if you hear like Todd Howard talk about the stuff in interviews, like he did with Les Friedman before, the engine that they have is more than just the graphics and stuff. It's about the way that all the NPCs interact with each other, the way everything interacts with the environment, about what the things that you do, what it causes everything else to do. And if you take the creation engine out of the picture, like all of that goes away, and you have to start from scratch, and it becomes more of a typical game, less so a Bethesda game, and I don't want that at all. Also, and Unreal Engine is not known for doing the best big open world games, pure and plain and simple. They always struggle with a lot of that stuff, and especially with the computational power that it's going to take for a Bethesda type game. Switching to that engine is going to kill everything special about it, and instead you're going to get a generic game. You're right. Like it just ain't gonna work.
Well, so to actually help your point there, Mav, if you've spent any time like on PC looking at Starfield at like high levels of fidelity, they don't need to switch engines.
No.
The details on display there are
it's
immense.
On PC, dude. I have my 7900 XT, right?
Uh-huh.
Oh my god, dude! Starfield is freaking gorgeous. Now, if you just compare everything to the Xbox version, yeah, sure. Right, but I think they're going to be able to push it further on console, even with Elder Scrolls 6. But man, it's going to be a special game. The question is, when does it come out? Now, the interesting thing about that is if you look at the projections originally on that leaked list, it was slated for 3 years post Starfield, right? So even if Starfield got pushed back, which we know it did, about 18 months or so past when it was slated on that list, you're still talking about within 3 years from now, at the end tail of that. Now, do they get extra time because Microsoft's giving them more budget and it's going to be more bug free and all these kind of things like we got with Starfield? Probably. So 3-4 years away. We'll probably get it at 2026, 2027.
Nice. Awesome feedback on that. And PTK, what is your take as far as Bethesda's next title reaching the $1 billion mark?
I agree. So a lot of the takes here were really good. Shout out to Mav. That was a really good breakdown, brother. But I think it's going to be Elder Scrolls 6. So as you know, and I'm going to be the spokesperson for Pong here because me and him shares a very, very close sentiment here about we're big high fantasy fans. I'm more high fantasy fan than I am a space sci-fi fan. So as great as Starfield is, and like I said, it is a generational game. We want to make sure we got the receipts on that. As great as Starfield is, I'm always going to be more of a high fantasy fan. And I know a lot of people, there's like this, people have such a bond with Elder Scrolls. And like, if we get anything, like if there's any type of leak or any type of whisper that we're getting anything Elder Scrolls, the internet goes crazy about it. It just tells you how people really feel about that franchise. So I think it's going to be massive. It's going to be massive. And I do like the fact, Mav, that you brought up that scope is going to be a bit different. So it does allow for a bit more creativity with the engine. And I do love the fact, and please stick up for Creation Engine 2. I'm glad that you did that. I know, Logan, you were shrugging your shoulders, but I agree. I think that's the soul of what makes Bethesda games, right? You remove the Creation Engine, you don't really get everything that's going on. Like all the interactions, the physics, the way it interacts with the worlds, how that interacts with the story. It's like lasagna. You can't just take all of the cheese out. You know what I mean? Like this, you don't get a bunch of noodles. You know what I mean? Like that's what
the Creation Engine is designed specifically to make the kind of games that they make.
Exactly.
I mean, okay, but what about Outer Worlds? Like that is a Bethesda game. That's Unreal 4.
It's a good amalgamation. Yes, absolutely.
But you still can't do all the things you can do in a Bethesda game in Outer Worlds.
You gotta collect all the sandwiches and throw them in a room.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Yes. I mean, you can't take that out, Logan. You can't take it out, right? Like it's part of it's part of the sauce, right? Like you can't just remove that.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise we're just playing another RPG from other studio, and anybody can do it. Like that's the thing that's special about these games is the things that are capable because of the technology and the talent that they have utilizing to make something unique and special that nobody else can do.
And essentially they're relatives. Like, I mean, what are we talking about here, right? Like I'm not gonna dock them for like being similar. You know what I mean? So like they're essentially relatives. Like you said, a little brother, right?
Yeah.
So
it's more that it's not that they can't do it, it's that they'll choose not to do it, because I think it's possible with Unreal. And seeing what's been done with Unreal 5, I think that there's potential there that would be overlooked due to overhead with engineers, designers, all the stuff that entails with actually making the games that they make. They're comfortable, they don't need to shift, but I'm looking forward to seeing like what Obsidian's going to do with Avowed and Outer Worlds 2, knowing what Unreal 5 offers.
So gentlemen, unfortunately I must take my leave, but I will push back on Unreal 5 just a little bit, because I will say so far Epic is doing well working with Microsoft to integrate a lot of that into DirectX. But as of today, the only person probably that can play Immortals of Aveum well is me with the 4090. And that's not something you could do on normal PCs. That game struggles on 80% of machines because it's one of the only real Unreal Engine 5 games. I think that's a conversation that engine will be best once it's been optimized with the console software more. And in the short term, it's all handled by brute force. And that's why you see a lot of the hardware issues, the game performance issues you see right now. That engine is just beautiful, but really, really, really beefy. You need like
it looks
hardware to
it
run that
looks
thing.
great in showpiece trailers.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, you know, but it's not ready for console gameplay. Not anytime soon, right? And you can tell that with the Immortals of Avium. They put FSR3 on it, and in motion that thing turns into molecules, right? It's just crazy. It's not ready for prime time. You know.
I mean, you gotta be honest. You know what I mean? Like you gotta look
Yeah.
at that too. You know what I mean?
But I mean, I miss the speeds and feeds, so I'm super excited, right? I'm loving the path tracing on Cyberpunk and all of that. But to be real, to get that game on everything, and of course, you know, we're talking when we say everything, we mean the floor in console, which is Series S. Unreal Engine 5 running righteous, they need some work.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying they need some work.
49, you got a 49er, man. That thing is going to shine. But even like I have my 7900 XT, like, and I have to make a lot of compromises even on that with Cyberpunk 2077.
Oh, on the 4090 without DLSS or some kind of upscaling, Immortals of Avium, and I'm talking 64 gigs. I'm talking the top CPU on the market. You're getting 40 frames per second.
Yeah.
Right, and that's the biggest $5,000 beast you can buy today. 45 frames per second. So imagine them saying, well, Unreal Engine 5 is our new engine of choice. There is a lot of optimization.
Oh, and plus they have to take years to get all the back-end stuff to be able to create the kind of game that they make and transform Unreal into basically another creation engine.
I don't know, man.
Like,
I'm looking at Coalition. I got full faith.
Yeah.
After the Matrix demo, I'm like, you know what? Cool. You guys take
that
5
Matrix
and you guys
demo
run with it.
ran like shit. It did. I'm sorry.
Whatever.
It was
no,
beautiful.
it didn't.
It was
didn't.
The performance on that Matrix demo was trash, but it was gorgeous.
But also remember though,
it's
that
trash,
engine
it
ran badly.
It
some
was
time ago.
The performance,
right?
It was horrible. The
sure,
it was beautiful, but unless it's in motion, you know what I mean? Like that's where it has problems. It was dipping well below 30 frames like frequently.
And now's when I'm gonna
though.
Now's when I'm gonna stand behind Captain Logan and say, don't you deny the Coalition, because when they do release that thing, it will blow your wig back on the Series S.
Coalition is going to do they do but the best out of anybody with Unreal Engine.
They're
5,
wizards,
right?
They're
like
wizards.
I have faith in Coalition, but that's not to say that every studio can do what Unreal Engine 5.
Oh, no doubt.
What the Coalition can,
yeah.
And it fits the kind of game that the Coalition makes too. So it's like, it's just not every engine is for every studio. Like
I'm not saying it is.
Yeah, Unreal Engine is a great studio. Like it's Unreal Engine is a great engine. Right, I'm not denying that. It's also versatile. A lot of people can use it and all these things, but it's also overhyped to the point where a lot of people are asking every game to be made in Unreal Engine, and that takes a lot of special things about the individual engines that are out there with all of these different studios, that the engines are built to make the kind of games that they make. And if you take that away and everything's made on Unreal Engine, all of a sudden everything's gonna feel a little
games become generic, and you make Epic too powerful.
Right. I think the difference here is that I'm not asking every studio to use Unreal, and you know, I understand and recognize like there's going to be there's good things with diversity with engines. I think the thing is that there are limitations that I've seen based on like what's, you know, Creation Engine 1 to Creation Engine 2, seeing what can be done with Unreal and then seeing what can be done with Unreal in a game like Bethesda type games, and knowing what Immortals of Avium can do with the facial, you know, rigging that they do, seeing what Obsidian can do to create a Bethesda style game using Unreal. I think of like, you know, what would be my best case scenario as like a dream for Elder Scrolls 6, knowing like what Lumen and some of the other stuff can do, because we haven't seen them, you know, do stuff like that. Like Outer Worlds is great, but I haven't seen huge landscapes of like flush trees and stuff like that outside of mods on Skyrim.
I want to see something like a metahuman, you know, somehow be able to blend that into like the facial stuff. Like if they could do metahuman in the creation
move,
I think that would be the way to go.
Play Starfield on a high-end PC. You're going to see a lot of what you're just asking for right there.
Give me the 5,000, I'll do it.
There you go.
I'm on a $500
Right.
console right now.
But those things that you see for the showpieces and stuff like that with Unreal Engine, like those are on high-end PCs.
Yeah,
right. That's what
very
I'm
high end
getting at.
PCs. Yeah, Nanite will bring most machines, like 90% of machines, to their knees in its current iteration. Even the toppest dog machine, Nanite is no joke, because it's basically an engine tool that has not been offset by any of the console hardware. So you got to brute force the whole thing. And at that point, how much RAM do you really have? How much CPU do you really have? If you're talking console, chances are it's not enough.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more that needs to be done in the middle. But gentlemen, unfortunately, my sister's looking at me side eye. I must depart. This is an awesome conversation. Captain Logan, I'm a huge fan of the show. I can't believe I got a chance to chat with you. I'm always listening to your stuff. You
Thank you.
yes, absolutely. You guys do great work on XCP. Of course, my brothers here, Fuzzy, Mav, always a pleasure. I must unfortunately bow out. Thank you, PTK, for the invite.
No problem, brother.
I will be back next time you throw up the bat signal.
Yeah.
Good night, gentlemen.
Good night, brother. Be safe, bro. We'll talk to you soon.
Have a good one, bro.
Bye-bye.
Later, K. Asante.
No, but just to kind of finish my point up, just about what I think regarding the next $1 billion franchise. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I mentioned Elder Scrolls 6. Obviously, I think that was the one that I had chosen. But just ultimately, I think that like Starfield has done so much, and and I'm glad you brought it up, Logan, as far as goodwill towards Bethesda, and that goes along with that goes a long way too. We gotta look at the actual face of this as well too. We can't forget perception is reality ultimately, right? Like, and that sells video games too. In reality, you know what I mean? So getting a lot of that goodwill back, Starfield being as good as it is, even despite the people just bombing it and review bombing it and doing all of that crazy nonsense stuff and all of the hit pieces and the fluff regarding Starfield and all of the stuff that isn't real, people just make up. The game was still a massive success, and nobody can deny that. So that's put Bethesda back in a more favorable place with a lot more people. And I think that gives people more confidence going forward with a game like Elder Scrolls 6, which means we're probably not going to get as many questions like Starfield got regarding is the game actually going to be good? Because whatever reason people were asking up until the day Starfield came out, I wonder if this game is actually going to be any good. And that's fair for a game like Starfield. The idea that they sold us is so insane that nobody could really fathom that it could actually work. And they actually pulled it off. So I don't think Elder Scrolls 6 is going to get the scrutiny that Starfield got, which is going to go a long way for us. I think as far as from a sales standpoint, it's a beloved franchise. I mean, people even love it on PlayStation, right? Like, so I think it's going to, and obviously we got news that it will be exclusive this time around. That's obviously going to be have an effect on the game. People, I wonder how many people, Logan, are going to jump ship ahead of time. As we get closer, or more people going to start sweating more, a little more as the date gets a little closer to the game actually start coming out. Once we see like an actual official like trailer, we get the first. I wonder if people are going to start like sweating about actually having to buy an Xbox.
I hope they do, because if they haven't already, then they're missing out on good experiences on other consoles because of what just like their dedication to one manufacturer over another. I mean, ultimately it always comes down to money, but I hope people aren't missing out on opportunities like Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6 just because they're bitter about one console brand name over another.
Yeah, no, and obviously you don't get the contingency to do or say they do, and then get online and make sure their profile is offline so nobody actually sees them playing the game. So we got a few of those too, right, Mav? I'm sure you know a few of those too, brother. But I ultimately think I don't think this game was. I think Bethesda did so well with Starfield. It gave them so much breathing room, and I think people trust them a lot more now. People trust the relationship between them and Xbox, between them and Microsoft. I think Starfield's such an olive branch to their fan base, and on top of that, it brought in such a huge rush of new fans like myself. There's going to be a bunch of new people now, like, oh, they're going to do this again, and it's going to be high fantasy. I'm going to tune in. I'm actually ready for that game. Like now, I'm actually excited for what they're doing next. Whereas they probably wouldn't even cared about Elder Scrolls 6 had Starfield not been what it was. So I think it's gonna be true. I wouldn't be surprised if it hit that billion faster than what Starfield did. I wouldn't even be surprised.
Yeah. Well, to Captain Logan's point, like the goodwill aspect, like if you look back at 76, that it received so much criticism and people kind of question, Bethesda's moves prior to Microsoft making the acquisition, and even afterwards, people still question the acquisition to some extent. Will Microsoft bring them down further and blah blah blah? But Starfield came out as a solid game. Are there some bugs? Sure, not to the extent of what you would normally see in a Bethesda game, but overall, Bethesda's definitely stepped up with Starfield, and hopefully everything stays on that same course when it comes to the release for Elder Scrolls 6. I'm pretty sure, like you said, PTK, I think it will probably reach those numbers faster. I mean, I'm more of the sci-fi guy than the high fantasy guy,
Yeah.
but there's so many people that are into Skyrim and Elder Scrolls that it already is a known quantity, and to have a latest and greatest one coming out, I think that will draw more people back to it. The same ones that are still playing modded versions or even the vanilla version of previous Elder Scrolls are going to want to be there day one or early access and whatnot. Now, will they jump ship? Some of them probably will. Some of them will, pick up that Series S, or maybe they already have that Samsung TV, or their computer and internet is good enough where they could probably do just the browser without having to really do upgrades to their PC. But I'm pretty sure there'll be quite a few that hop on at least launch day, if not early access and stuff. But awesome to hear you guys' feedback on this. Sorry, it's not the biggest topic, but it was a cool one to see, especially considering, my timeline and friends list as far as people playing Starfield. Like, it goes to show that this was a highly anticipated game, and we'll see if it gets the nod for Game of the Year, or at least a nomination for it later this year. So
Awesome. Great topic. And I think we got one more before we wrap the show up. So we'll go a little bit over here. So I think we got one more topic here. So I wanted to get into this because I know there's some fans of this franchise that are, we're looking forward to this, and they've got some troubling news. I want to talk a little about the KOTOR remake and just the dev issues going on with that game and the development hell it seems to be going through at this point, with Sony basically treating it like a baby mama and like stepping completely away from it. Like they completely just like walked away and said, we're they took the trailer down. A lot of things, a lot of information that we got previously is no longer accessible. So it's kind of where we at. That kind of leaves KOTOR fans in the dirt. People that wonder why, mind you, let's remember, we can't forget, Logan. People almost they threw Xbox on a barbecue for not getting this exclusive. Right? They said, Xbox, what the hell are you guys doing? Now Xbox kind of looks smart for not putting their money behind the wrong kid, behind the wrong horse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because had this been Xbox and this dev situation been going on, oh Lord, the articles that will be coming out. Xbox, what are you doing? Mismanagement. Phil can't handle the studio. He has too much going on. ABK is costing Xbox games. Think about the headlines that would come out. So I think they dodged the bullet with not making this game exclusive, like a lot of people wanted them to. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Where you at just with the dev issues with KOTOR?
Oh man, I saw the writing on the wall when this got announced. When we started to see like who was getting to work on it, what was going on with it, and then it's all just cinematics, and there's like the remakes are super big right now. I did not have faith that this thing was gonna come to fruition. I had a feeling this was like I can't think of the studio that had that vaporware game that everyone thought was like a shell. Abandoned. Yes. It's not Blue Point, but the other studio.
I don't even
That's
remember their name.
It
yeah.
was like Blue Square or something, I think.
Yeah, but that was like that's where I was at
Blue
with
Box.
Blue Box. Oh, God, on point. I was not feeling it for this. Like I know a lot of folks have a lot of reverence for that franchise in the two games and just really want that to come back. But bro, I just did not think this was going to happen. So when I saw like everything's just kind of been like mum and they started to lock things up, I'm like, yep, that didn't happen. It's still on the table, I think, for other folks, that license. I think there's still some good studios out there that could really take that and really do some cool stuff with it. But it's just not gonna happen anytime soon, unfortunately. And it might have been just like a lack of interest or confidence with the team.
That's what it sounds like. It just that's what it feels. There couldn't be anything else, Logan. I couldn't come up or discern anything else that it could be. I mean, I don't know financially. Obviously, there could be some financial stuff. Investors come and go. Financial situations change. Contracts change depending on what's going on, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, we hadn't heard anything about any issues in that regard. So, like you said, maybe creativity wanes sometimes when you get that initial hype, but then you realize like it was a niche game. Like as great as the game is from like a cult following, it wasn't some like it didn't sell 30 million copies. It wasn't some super big game in that way. So it did get initial hype and then maybe that died down. It could have been that, Logan. I know you said sometimes interest can kill dev cycles, right? Sometimes just the interest isn't there anymore and that could kill a game, in its tracks. So I don't know. It's interesting to see though, because you thought, at least I thought this game would be getting a bit more attention than it actually got. But it did kind of just wane, Logan. Like we got the announcement and then it kind of just
That
it
was
went
it.
back to that was it.
We didn't get any follow up. There were no dev, like little bios or anything coming out, or we didn't know there were no big names attached to it. And like with movies, like you kind of need like one big name kind of heading
A
it up,
voice actor or something like that. Yeah.
something to come by and just say like, hey, there's some weight behind this project. Sometimes it doesn't need that. Sometimes we get something special that comes out of nowhere. Like a remaster for an old game that just gets thrown up and you're just like, oh wow, that's cool. It looks like they did a good job. But with an IP like this, like Eastside Vandal says in chat, like Phil needs to scoop up the KOTOR license and give it to Obsidian or in Exile. And honestly, like that's the best move, I think, if we really want this, is those studios could actually make it and do justice to the actual games. And I would love to see that.
Yeah, I think that's a great choice. Let me throw this over to you, Mav. Get your opinion. Obviously, Mav, like Logan pointed out, and I'm glad you highlighted that, Logan. It did kind of come and go. We got the announcement, which was big, but a lot of times in like a lot of games and like a lot of hype, Mav, we see it over time. Sometimes it's just that initial shock, and then it just kind of fizzles out. It's kind of felt like that was the case. And then when you think about it, we didn't get any updates once it was announced. Like zero updates, zero anything, screenshots, concept art, voice actors, anything attached to like the remake at all. It just went quiet.
Well, there's a lot of things out there to why that came to be, right? Like if you've been paying attention to this game, there's a lot of stuff on that's come out from the devs that had originally worked on it, from Aspire, and they were really excited. They had actually accumulated a lot of talent from former devs and that had worked in the franchises. A lot of AAA supreme talent, and they really believed they were in a good place. They hit a milestone. They had a showing. They were excited to show it. PlayStation said it wasn't cinematic enough. It wasn't fitting their thing. They didn't like it. That's what the feedback they got was. So at that point, Embracer Group, who is owning Aspire, freaks out. They end up starting to pull away from the development from Aspire. They transfer over everything into Saber, who has no talent, nothing prepared to be able to make this game. And then they sat in limbo for a long time, right? So this has been a mismanagement primarily from the part of Embracer Group, but also the wrong partner for this type of game to begin with
Yeah.
PlayStation pitching it out there this type of game, it's kind of like PlayStation didn't really understand the kind of game that it is, what
They
KOTOR
just wanted.
is.
They saw the value in the
They saw the
IP.
value of the IP and were
Yeah.
like thinking, hey, because KOTOR, if a lot of people, if you put out there what's your best game of all time, that's number one on a lot of people's list. You got like Ocarina of Time. You have a lot of people say KOTOR, and there's some other games in there too. It's held in super high regard, right? So a lot of people were kind of wishy-washy on Aspire at first because like, where are these guys? What have they really done? That's big time, but they apparently we're on the right track, but it wasn't the track that Sony liked, comparing it to their traditional style games that they do with the kind of production value of the cinematics, all that kind of stuff, right? So it wasn't a good fit there with the partnership. Bracer Group tried to salvage it. It seemed like that didn't work out. Now we're to where we are now, and Bracer Group's falling apart, crumbling before our very eyes. They didn't get the funding from the Saudi Arabia investor that they were supposed to get funding from. That deal fell through. All of a sudden, you have studio closures, you have cancellations, you have layoffs, all these different things, all permeating throughout Embracer Group. Now, all of a sudden, this game is delisted as well. My hope is that PlayStation backed out of the contract to allow somebody else to be able to get the rights to this game, right? I don't know what's involved with that. That would be pure speculation if that's even possible. I don't know, but hoping so. I would hope that they do, because I think Embracer Group is, like Lars said, they are looking to move things right now.
They
They're
got too much fat,
all,
man. They
all
got to trim this
options.
fat.
Said all options are on the table. Restructuring, offloading, or whatever they got to do. All options on the table right now. So my hope is somebody like Microsoft, right, or another big publisher, scoops in. They save Crystal Dynamics. They save Eidos Montreal. They save this game. They save the Tomb Raider IP. They save everything that's really valuable to us as consumers. Because I have no faith right now with the direction that Embracer Group is going in, because they're like a crumbling machine. Like, everything is just falling apart at the seams. So somebody come in. Hopefully, ABK gets closed in time to where Microsoft isn't afraid to go in there and make an offer to Embracer Group to help give them an influx of cash, take advantage of the situation, get talent, get IPs back in return. That game would be amazing if it did transfer back to its original home of Xbox as well, with some really talented developers like an Obsidian, right? Who worked on Knights of the Old Republic 2. Perfect match. Let's go with that, right? A match made in heaven there. They're already familiar with the IP and everything. So I think that's what they should do, but we'll see. Um, but yeah, I think that it's a bigger game like PTK than like, and the value wise, than like a lot of people are realizing. But the issue was, to Logan's point, like, the developer didn't excite anybody. Like, people get excited not just for game names now, they get excited also for who's behind making the game. Like, whatever Cory Barlog makes next, people are going to be excited for it because they know it's his game, right?
Yeah.
It's going to generate hype, right? You take KOTOR, which is a beloved franchise and IP, then you put it under somebody that doesn't really have a proven track record of success, and they kind of have a track record of making kind of like not great experiences. It's like, okay, is this the right fit for that? Right. So it led to uncertainty to begin with. Now, I'm not saying Aspire was doing the wrong things. I think supposedly everything that came out, they were on the right track, but still, you got maybe the wrong developer to drive hype to begin with. Then you also have the wrong partner to fulfill the kind of vision that KOTOR deserves, right? And then you also have the crumbling Embracer Group right now. So that's kind of why I think this all of a sudden happened the way it did. It's like a bunch of things in one.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. It's such a crazy, and the Embracer angle is kind of crazy too, considering they were looking beefy at one point. They looked extremely strong at one point, and like you said, it just seems to all kind of fall apart at the seam. One loose string, and Embracer is completely restructuring at this point. And like you said, the good thing is that hopefully this deal closes in time, and somebody, I'm not necessarily saying Microsoft, somebody can swoop in, grab some of those IPs, salvage them before they're lost forever, because we've seen that happen too many times as well too, and we hate to see that, man. I hate to see these ideas that were started, like literally started, just go by the wayside because financials and nobody stepped up and decided they wanted to make buy the IP or things like that. So Fuzz,
Yeah.
let's get you in on this, brother.
Hey, real quick, PTK, I
Yeah.
do have to get out of here.
Oh,
I'm being
yeah.
called
Oh,
away.
yeah.
But thanks for having me on, bro. And it's good talking to you, Logan. Fuzzy, it's always great, man. And sorry to have to just leave all of a
Oh
sudden.
no, you're good, bro. Do your thing, man. Shout out to Caitlin. Tell Caitlin we said hi and thank you, Mav. Once again, chat. You know what to do. Go follow Mav. But have a good night, man. Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, have
Later,
a good one,
Mav.
everybody. Peace out. Take it easy.
All right, later.
Later.
Man. All right, well, let me get to this $2 super chat before we let Fuzz go, and then we're gonna go ahead and wrap the show up. But Splendiferous did send a $2 super chat. Sorry about that, Splin. He said, but is the Switch really a console or a handheld? The $2 super chat. Great
was trying
question.
to trigger Mav.
Exactly, right. Shout out to you, Splin. But go ahead, Fuzz.
Yeah.
Just go ahead.
Yeah, with the whole KOTOR thing, like this is gonna probably sound silly, but I blame EA and hear me out. EA had the Star Wars license for God knows how long, and they kind of sat on things. They released some games and to controversy because of microtransactions, pay to win, and stuff like that. And then they would go back and fix the games, although the player base had already left or moved on to other games. And then they tried to hold out the olive branch with the Star Wars Squadrons, which was pretty good, but it was a smaller experience. And at that point, people were still kind of pissed off at EA in general how long it took them to fix like Battlefront 2 and whatnot. But EA is probably the reason why Disney is like, you know what? We're going to shop around. Well, now they went and shopped around, and there were 2 Star Wars games that were announced around the same time. One was, KOTOR, which, I was probably one of those people that was like, oh yeah, Phil missed an opportunity on that one. No, it's more like he dodged a bullet on that one. But, hindsight 2020, he was on point by not, I guess, signing up with Aspire.
Definitely.
As far as that.
Yeah, you and Pong. Deal. I remember I got receipts. Y'all was both on Phil's ass about not getting that thing.
Yeah, it was like, yeah, you probably should have got that. That was originally exclusive. Well, now we kind of, I guess, see probably why. He was probably like, yeah, I don't, that team, no thanks. And then the other one was the Star Wars Eclipse, which that kind of went silent too. And that was from Quantic Dream, which was another team that, a lot of times would make exclusives for Sony. And now they're kind of going multi-plat for the most part, but I haven't heard anything about Star Wars Eclipse in forever. So, if EA didn't do such a bad job when they had the license, we probably wouldn't have these games that aren't coming out. But then again, I don't know. It sucks that Aspire had already gone through, like, I think they had some layoffs after the Disney viewing. Like, it was just before, if I remember right, before D23 earlier in the year or something like that, or maybe it was last year. Time just flies for me, so I have a hard time keeping track. But there was a time where I think Disney and Sony were, trying to check on that milestone, see where things were at, and it seemed like it fell apart from there. Now, whether it was the lack of cinematic aspect from Sony's standpoint, or maybe just Disney was like, this ain't it. Ever since then, the deal was crumbling apart, and Embracer was like, all right, yeah, Saber Interactive will take over. And anytime you have a team that's been working hard at something and then you like hand it off to somebody else within the same company, different department kind of thing, or different dev team, whatever, it definitely puts a strain and some stress on both teams. The team that was doing the work was like, oh crap, our work wasn't good enough. I guess we lose this one, and layoffs and whatnot certainly ensue after that. And then with Saber, it's like, oh yeah, we were working on this game and this game, and now we have this on our lap. Great, now we're going to have to take resources from tough, what is it, not Tough Mudder, but whatever, the like their off-road games and stuff like that. So it sucks that there's been this lack of I wouldn't say consistency, but like this lack as far as being able to get the game across the finish line. And Embracer, like you guys had talked about earlier, Embracer having the troubles that they're having now. It sucks that things have kind of gone down this path. Now it would be nice if some of the rumors in the background are true, as far as Bethesda online studios working on a Star Wars IP in the background, but I don't know if it would be KOTOR, if they would be able to even secure the license at this point to hand off to them, or if it would be something totally different like The Mandalorian. We've been hearing rumors of that, or dreams of that for the past couple of years. But yeah, it just sucks when a team misses the mark for what was originally intended, and layoffs ensue, and a game that people were anticipating or looking to have a comeback and be modernized and updated visuals and whatnot, and for it not to come to fruition, it sucks. But hopefully that doesn't make Disney gun shy as far as handing out licenses, or at least having the offerings out there. It's just that I would like to see more first party studios, whether it's on Sony's side or Xbox's side. I would rather see one of those types of teams take it on. Now, it's not to say that a smaller team that's normally double A can't do something or pull it off. It's just a matter of when you have, a bit of more of a financial backing to expand the studio if need be, or add more resources as needed. It helps the situation, because a game where you have any game, when you have a licensed IP, not only do you have to meet your demands, but you also have to meet some of the license department demands. And when I've seen some of the behind the scenes, when Disney, when after they purchased Star Wars IP, they try to work with whatever teams are either making shows or games or toys or whatever the case may be, without standing in their way too much. But then they have the ultimate say as far as if it meets their quality assurance, and if it it doesn't necessarily have to be canon, but it does have to fall within certain lines of the storyline. Like, you can make an original story, it just can't be like, oh well, this character now becomes more powerful than Darth Vader and kills him or something like that. They're not going to allow stuff like that to happen. But it has to be able to fit and make sense within that world. And hopefully Disney continues to at least make those offerings, but hopefully they get more selective and look at what I guess you could say, not just the budget, but the scope of the team that would be handling the IP are quite capable, and have not necessarily a proven track record, but at least a track record that makes sense for what is to be expected. If it's meant to be a triple A, or if it's meant to be a double A smaller experience, like a side story. Like, I would love to see like a story like a Rogue One, converted into like a video game, like a more linear story kind of thing. But it sucks. But hey, hopefully there's more Disney Star Wars games in the near future. So fingers crossed.
For sure. So it's interesting, man. And I actually would love Pong to be here too, because this is another game that he was looking forward to as well. I'd love to get his take on this. But shout out to everybody in chat that got in on that. Shout out to you, Logan, as well as you, Fuzz, for getting in on that as well too, man. And I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap the show up on that note. Chat, you guys are freaking amazing. Once again, on your way out, if you're new here, please subscribe to the channel. You want to really support the channel, you can always join as a member. You get cool perks as well, being a member as well, and it helps monetarily as well, obviously, which makes the show better as well in the long run. But I appreciate you guys for hanging out with us, man, just being here, your presence, taking the time out of your busy evenings to come chill with us. First and foremost, we're going to get to our guest. Logan, thank you, man. I appreciate you coming through. Sends up the bad signal. You said no problem. Let me just check and make sure my schedule is clear. Then you hit me with the okay about 24 hours later. But thank you, brother. Chat, you know what to do. Go follow him, but go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you at, Logan.
Best place to find me is going to be either on Twitter at CAPT_LOGUN. You got the links there in chat on top of it with the mods. And other than that, XEP, Xbox Expansion Pass, I co-host with Luke Lord, the Insipid Ghost, and just talking Xbox, man. Talked about the same topics this week, but different conversations, which is what I love about having other podcast friends to chat with us about, because it's different ideas and stuff. But thank you for letting me come on, have a nice long form discussion with this, and shout out to Mav for being my protagonist to my antagonist today.
Right? I love that. I caught that too. I'm like, I like this. I like that little back and forth. I love it.
But yeah, thank you so much for letting me come on and have some fun with you guys tonight.
Not a problem, Logan. Anytime. You guys know what to do, chat. Shout out to our mod, Shonsu. Appreciate you, brother. The links are already there. He was on top of it, man. Love it when you get good people that support you. I love that, man. Shout out to you, Shonsu. Thank you so much, brother. But Logan, yeah, you'll be back soon, brother. We love having you here. Shout out to Luke. He was in the chat earlier. I'm sure Luke is in his 90s right now, probably sleep. Luke like 56 years old, so he had his vitamins and went to bed. Shout out to Luke. He gonna kill me for that. I know I'm gonna get a DM. I'm gonna wake up to a DM tomorrow. But anyway, shout out to Luke. Appreciate you, bro. And my right hand man, and my other right hand man, Pong. Shout out to you, brother. I know your energy was here. We appreciate you. I'm sure you're gonna listen to the replay, brother. Yeah, love you, bro. I hope everything works out. I hope you had a great day, bro. But Fuzz, appreciate you, man. Great topic, great conversation. Had some awesome people drop in. Asante, Mav jumped in with us. I had a phenomenal guest, Logan. But let everybody know where they can find you as well.
Oh, it was just awesome. It was awesome being on here, and always awesome having Captain Logan on here. Love your different perspective or views and takes on things. So always a good conversation. That's what we like here. So awesome having you on here. It was great talks, even though we don't necessarily agree on engines, but I look at it this way: as long as the game is good to play, that's all that I'm curious about. But always awesome having you on. But shout out to Asante, shout out to Mav for stopping by, and shout out to Pong. Have fun with the family. Take care. We'll hit you up next Saturday and get to chatting about whatever I probably do in Forza. But for those that want to hear my rambles and rants on anything gaming related, just follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter at fuzzy_Belvedere. Forza's going to be out in like 5 days and probably like 18 hours or something like that. So looking forward to that. And if you're into Forza, hopefully you have the early access. If not, I'll try to put out some content to kind of get you ready in it.
We're gonna make sure you do. 10th, so. I'm gonna be on your ass, so I'll be all in the DMs making sure you get. We need that Forza content, Fuzz. We need it, man.
But always awesome with everybody in the chat. Thanks for stopping by. Don't forget to hit the like button. Look forward to seeing you guys in the chat. Hopefully next Saturday. Thanks again for your time.
And appreciate everybody coming through. And thank you, Fuzz, once again. Appreciate you, bro. Every single week coming through, super consistent, man. Love you being here, man. Always looking forward to talking to you every single week, man. Got to get my fix in. And once again, shout out to Pong. No, he's not here right now, but appreciate you, brother, for lending us the energy, and hope you had a phenomenal weekend. And last but not least, your host here, PTK Blam. Follow me on app formerly known as Twitter as well. All of that information is in the description. It is in the comment section as well. I'm sure it'll be there too. But thank you guys for coming out, hanging out with us, man. We'll be here again, same time, same place next week. On your way out, once again, subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Support the channel. Thank you guys for just being here. We do this every week. Tell people about the Shop Podcast. The more people that come, the more fun we can have. But yeah, enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Peace out, everybody. Go play some video games. Be safe. See you guys next week. We're out of here.
Later.